Meeting to order. I would like to thank tonight's presenters and everyone joining us in person and via live stream. Thank you for being here. Brenda Miner will lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All of our board members are in attendance. Mr. Knopf is joining by phone, and Mr. Facer is excused. There are a few addendum materials on the following topics: public written comment, human resource report, communications and community relations report, policy drafts for the 2024-2025 school year. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the addenda. Is there a motion?
Hereby move that the board approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion passed. Written comment was received and is included in the information. We will now accept any public comment, but we have not received any requests, so we will move on. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve June board meeting minutes as presented. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the following minutes as presented: executive session for the labor contract matters, the executive session for labor contract matters, special meeting for action, and the regular board meeting budget hearing. Second.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? The motion passed. Next on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes authorizing payment of claims, approving supplemental financial information, approving the human resources activity as presented. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Any discussion? Oh, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion passed. Next on the agenda are the self-explanatory reports, which include Idaho General Fund Revenue Report, Food Service Summer Park Meal Program Report, Communications and Community Relations Report, Kindergarten Counts, 2024 Student Discipline Summary, and Activity Participation Fees Summary. Reports will be rolled into August board meeting. We will now move on to curriculum and instruction, technology, student safety, and athletics. We'll start with Amy Bowie, who will report on IRI and literacy best practice updates, unit development and state standard update, and back to school calendar.
Good evening. It was faster than normal. I was like, oh, it's curriculum already. I'm still gathering my thoughts. So in your packet, you can see that you have the Early Reading Best Practice Institute. There's a link to this IRI and literacy best practice. Kathy Luris and I, Dr. Howell sent us as representatives of the school district. We went to, do you have the slideshow in your packet?
Yeah,
Very good.
yeah.
So he sent us as representatives of the district. We were asked by the State Department because we were the only large district that had 40% or higher free and reduced lunch and scored 70% or higher on the IRI. So they really saw that as success. And so they asked us, you can see in slide 3, to what do you attribute your success? Which is a difficult question, and it was one we, before Kathy and I went and presented, one we really grappled with, and because there's a lot of things that we do, and we landed on a couple that we wanted to present to the rest of the state, to superintendents and principals around the state. The two we landed on were collective visible learning, which Dr. Hal's been a huge proponent. Well, he brought it here, and he's led that vision, and collective teacher efficacy. So, I mean, I didn't include the whole slideshow here, but I just thought it was worth noting for the board to know that we were representing our district around the state on our collective teacher efficacy. I included a few slides just on background on what visible learning is and how that led us to our collective efficacy vision. You can see on slide 6 that there's a definition of collective teacher efficacy. A school staff that believes it can collectively accomplish great things is vital for the health of a school. And if they believe they can make a positive difference, they very likely will. And you can see through John Hattie's work with visible learning that there's a 1.6 effect size, which that translates to really, really, really good, right? It really impacts student achievement. And if you look at slide 7, we asked, as we were presenting, we asked the questions, you know, what are the positive consequences of collective teacher efficacy? Clearly, it's student achievement, and people were able to answer that. They were also able to answer what collective efficacy does for culture and morale, but research shows there were a couple of others that kind of provided food for thought. That research shows that it also, and this one's big for me, it ameliorates the negative effects of low socioeconomic status. That's big. And it enhances parent-teacher relationships. And I asked I would ask each group, how does collective efficacy, the belief that we can make a difference in our learners' achievement, how does that improve parent and teacher relationships? And as they brainstormed, they came up with, as they build confidence in themselves and they know they're a part of something that works, they're more willing to share that with communities, with stakeholders, with the board, with committees, with each other, with parents. So if you go down to and then we went into the how do we do that? What can we actually do? What actions can we take as leaders to improve collective efficacy? And that's on slide 8. We can build instructional knowledge and skills, create opportunities for teachers to collaboratively share skills and experience. We can involve teachers in school-making decisions, and that's something we really strive to do in our district. And then you can see in slide 9 that this is sort of a misconception, I think, about collective efficacy, that it's not just increased teacher collegiality. It's not just teachers getting along. It's schools that do better and have better results. They provide opportunities for structured, sustained, and discussions, and they investigate the relationships between instructional practices and student work. So slide 10 is probably the most important for you. What they wanted from us is, how do we do that? Like, how do we build that collective efficacy? What structures do we have in place in our district? And this slide shows you, over to the right, we have our principals, our instructional coaches, there's an interventionist in every building, and there's a curriculum department that's sort of orchestrating all of this. And then up at the top of this pyramid, we have unit development, which I'm going to talk to you about in a minute, which is each summer we bring in different content areas and grade levels to work on their curriculum and their units, and we bring teacher representatives to lead that work. And then they go back and come August 16th, you'll see on the back to school calendar, they lead a unit rollout where they say, here's the work that we did, and here's how it's going to change instruction, and here's how it's going to impact your learners. So they lead that collaboration and they lead that learning. We also have instructional camps, and I think you remember that, but you're new, right? So you might not remember. So instructional camps are monthly, district-wide professional learning communities. They're 2 hours a month. And at the elementary, they go by grade level, first grade, second grade, third grade. They meet once a month for 2 hours to enhance their curriculum and their instructional strategies. And at the secondary level, they'll meet in content areas. So government or English or math. And math is broken down to, integrated 1 or calculus. And then from there, those instructional camps, it has to go to the PLC level, which is at Highland High School. The government teachers have to take what they've learned and work together to analyze data, and that has to go to the teacher level and the student levels.
PLC stands for?
Professional Learning Community. And I'm glad you asked that, because really, the structure that we have, if it doesn't end up in PLCs at the PLC level, so like I said, third grade at Chubbuck Elementary and their PLC, if all this work isn't trickling down to inform their decisions and impact their instruction, then it's kind of all a waste of time and resources, right? It has to get there, and so we really focus on that collective efficacy and getting it to that level, so it makes a difference for learners. So that's what we presented. It was an hour-long presentation, so that was just a quick recap, but it went really well. The feedback was really positive. A lot of districts reached out and asked for more information, how do we do it, how do we fund it? And they asked, some asked to come to some of our unit development and to come to some of our back-to-school activities. So I just think it's important that we know that we're doing some really important things that are working in our district.
So can I just ask a question?
Yes.
Because, I mean, this does feel like, because we're a big district and we have so many resources, that this makes it more feasible. So I would imagine where some of the smaller districts a little frustrated because they don't have the manpower to make something like this. I mean, I don't know, I guess that's just the nature of the beast,
That's
but
a great question. That's a-
how,
And that's what they
trying to think
brainstormed.
of the
That
word,
was, I fielded that question from multiple districts and multiple people. People that were our size, well, and then larger
Mm-hmm.
districts, they have even more resources, but then.
how do you wrangle it all?
Exactly. So we were, in some ways, even though we're a large district, we're sort of in the middle. But some of the smaller districts, we talked about, so what does that unit development look like in a small district? You bring your 2 third-grade teachers in, that's both of them, right? But so then there's no one to go and present to, but they're involved in looking at the state standards, aligning the curriculum. And so I had, no, that's a great question. That's
Yeah, scalability, that's the word I was looking
Scalability, that's
for.
exactly,
the
that's
word I was
exactly the
looking for.
conversation I've had with multiple districts. And it happened there on the spot and after, sort of organically, and then it also happened through phone calls. But it does look different depending on the size
The
of your
size.
district. And that can be said for probably just about everything we talk about. It looks different based on the size of your district.
There's so many that don't have access to any levies. They pay their teachers what the state pays them, which is quite a bit less than
Right, right.
what we
And
pay.
And so sometimes like also the people, how do you get creative in leadership? Like we have instructional coaches, so how do you get creative with having somebody who's a teacher leader maybe then, and you're giving them a small stipend, or how do you get
Yeah,
creative?
where-
And so
where-
those were some of the conversations we had.
And then-
That leads us into the next item on the agenda, which is unit development. And I just wanted to give you, I think it's important that you know the work that's taking place in the district and the teachers that came in to work on unit development this summer.
Oh,
we
can I ask one more
Yes,
question
you
about
bet.
this? Because
Absolutely.
I wanted to know what the numbers were of our previous literacy curriculum before COVID, and then versus what our IRI, and I'm assuming that we have a big change.
Well, and the tests change. Do you remember the
The tests
tests
do change, but
changed?
you can kind of tell, the performance of kids, even though it was a different test, if they're doing well, because it seems like they're doing a lot better.
They're doing, it is, and I looked at it. I just haven't looked at it today or this week. I looked at it when you asked last month. So there's been growth since then. Which is great. But that first year after they changed the test, we were a little bit startled because the numbers were skewed. But overall, we have had substantial growth in the last 10 years on our IRI. Now, I just got back from a conference, a visible learning conference, and one of the main focuses that John Hattie will tell you is you look at what you're doing well, which we are. We're one of the only school districts over 40% free and reduced that has 70% or higher. That's great. We also have the other thing we need to talk about is 30% of our learners are not at proficient on the IRI. And so how do we, and this is a conversation, you asked what I was doing today and why I was tired. This is what I'm about to tell you is what we were doing.
Yeah.
We're looking at ways to target the populations that are not proficient and to close that achievement gap. And so we're trying to look at data in different ways and identify who those students are, what's not working, what we can improve on. And because while it was an honor and a little bit humbling, a lot humbling for them to say, you're the model of success, tell us what you're doing well, we're not where we want to be until all of our students are achieving. And we want all students to be able to read by 3rd grade. And we want all students to pass the IRI. So that's one of the things we were looking at. And Deanna, Madam Chair, sometimes I lose my formality. Madam
No.
Chair, I will send you that data so that you can look at it, and then we can have further conversations about it.
Yeah.
Because I think I appreciated that question last time, and I don't want to lose sight of it, so I'll send that to you.
Yeah, I want to know if it's a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Okay, unit development. So here's what happened. K-5 ELA, we had 31 teachers, and we emphasized their teacher voice, and we kind of let them talk about, they had had a year with our new HMH curriculum, and we let them kind of, through focus groups and questionnaires and surveys, what did they think was most valuable use of their time? And they came up with, they really wanted to work on writing, because there's so many writing resources in, there's a writing workshop model, but there's also writing within the reading part, and they really wanted to identify and prioritize and pace their writing in this program. So we did that first, and then the second thing they did is write common assessments, which I was thrilled that they wanted common assessments, because without common assessments, we really can't analyze data. And so those were, that was 4 days, and those were our two main priorities. There was a lot of learning and a lot of growth, and we had a content specialist from HMH there to help us. We had our instructional coach from our district there to help us, and there was a lot of learning and growth, but those were our two main takeaways. We had 8 high school physical science teachers come in, and they did similar work to what they did last year for biology, which is they worked on those cross-cutting concepts and those science and engineering practices trying to make their units more hands-on, more real world, more authentic, those phenomenon-driven assignments. And you want to see something cool, walk into a science PLC where they're trying to work on phenomenon-driven. Like I was in English, not science, but they're very committed teachers to trying to make it more practical for our learners. So that was cool. Middle school science, they came in, 11 of them. They came in and they wrote out their goals to deepen their understanding of phenomenon-based learning, because they're just starting out on that. They're evaluating how well their current units were working, and they were writing target success criteria. They discussed the current board-adopted resource and how well it supports phenomenon-based learning, and the science and engineering practices and scaffolding and differentiation and engagement and relevance, because the reason they did that is we're getting ready for an adoption next year, and so they wanted to see how well their current resource was meeting what they wanted it to meet. So there were some really rich conversations. They did a lot of other things, but there were some really rich conversations there in preparation for adoption. High school math came in. They worked on, the state created a document that took all of these high school standards, high school state standards, and they organized them into foundational, advanced, and dual credit. That's not what they called them. College. So they divided them into the 3 sections, and so then the teachers looked at that document and kind of aligned what they were currently doing to make sure that aligned with what the state, and there were really rich conversations there as well. And then finally, we had a few smaller groups come in. Media center specialists, music teachers, and gate teachers came in to work, and some of them just came in for a couple of days here and there to work on some things. So long story short, there was a lot of work going on curriculum instruction and teacher-led revising of units.
Wonderful.
Okay, and another thing you probably should know about is there's essential standards work going on that it went on in the state in June and July, and there are quick guides that will be released in August. Our teachers will have them in hand when they come back, and what that work did is it identified like priority standards for math, English, science, social studies. I left one out. Math, English, science, social studies. What was the other one? What am I forgetting? No, it wasn't health.
Literature?
Math, English, social studies. Well, I know there were 5. I don't remember the other one, but we're going to get those in teachers' hands to go ahead and do their, to go ahead and look at their units and see are these the standards that we're prioritizing in our classroom with our students? And then the goal is that aligns with ISAT testing as well. Okay.
Isn't that kind of late to get it right at the beginning of the year? Don't you want it
Yes.
sooner?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
shouldn't that come before this unit? Okay, just
And
stating some
so we
obvious
just roll with what we get.
observation.
Yeah, it's a good observation. It's a good observation. Timing is not always optimal, and we make do with what we get. But
Next year will be great.
on
Year after.
on the other hand, at least they're doing it at the state level, because you should know this. When we build our units, we identify our own. We look at the standards and we identify the priority standards and the essential standards. So for a district like ours, how we use this document will be to go, I wonder if the state work aligned with our work, and do we need to reevaluate some of our prioritizing?
Right.
Some smaller districts will get that document, and they don't even have essentials, and they will go, oh, yay, these are our essential standards. So it depends on the size of the district and where the district's at on how they use those documents, but also a good observation. Okay, finally, the last thing I have on the agenda is the back-to-school calendar. And you have the back-to-school calendar. It's outgrown its old format of just some cells in a calendar format. We outgrew that. So you have all of the information. There's so much happening with new teachers, administrators, building leadership teams. It's all on this document, and you are absolutely welcome to attend any and all events that you are interested in. And if you have any questions about that, you can just let us know, but
Okay,
we're already.
What's your theme this year?
thank you.
Oh.
It is,
From clarity to.
no from, right?
Oh, we decided no from.
No, from.
We struggled with
Clarity
this,
to connection.
amplifying impact.
Very good.
But it's a visible learning, visible learning, and we just got back from a conference, and we've got all sorts of good things to roll
Fun.
out, and that should impact engagement, culture and climate, and all the things we care about the most.
That's great.
Thank
Okay? All right, thanks.
Thank you, Amy. Next, AJ Watson will report on the PCC performance. Certificate renewal. I'd entertain a motion to approve, oh, never mind.
Not yet.
I'll let you just present it.
But you do
first.
have an item up for action this evening, the PCCS, the Pocatello Community Charter School Performance Certificate. So they operate under a 5-year certificate, and we, as the school district, are the authorizer for them to continue that operation. You have a memo in your packet that outlines the process and the procedure for their renewal, their performance certificate renewal. Included in the packet are a few different items, and some of them, including the performance certificate and the framework, are included in there. We are recommending, as a district, that we renew for a 5-year period from August 1st, 2024 to July 30th, 2029. And we use the performance framework. You probably remember this from earlier in the year in October. They usually come in and do a presentation. We include part of that, the operational and the financial report as part of that framework. And we also take a look at their testing scores. And consistently throughout the last several years, they have been able to maintain either good or high standings or rankings based on the framework. This year, we did not have the growth. We don't have a final score in there for the actual academic piece because the state still, due to COVID, they don't have 3 years, so we don't have an actual growth score in there for them. Their state scores were a little bit below the actual state average for ELA and for math, but it fell within a reasonable range. And we included that in there as recommendations. So if you see, as I talked with Michael Mendive, the administrator over there, we talked about recommendations along with this renewal. And there's 3 different recommendations. One includes ELA and math ISAT scores. So the continuing to focus on improving that instruction and aligning with the state standards, and they are aware of that, and will continue to have a strong focus on the instruction piece. And then they have all their policies developed, but they don't have all of them posted and online and available for the public. So they are working on that process and getting all of those policies posted and updated online. And then they were asked, this is prior to even my being here, they've been asked for a period of time, I don't know how long. I think they've been under charter with us since 1999, but they've been asked to look for a new authorizer. And so they are working currently with, I have to get this right, the Idaho Public Charter School Commission to become their authorizer. They have to change some bylaws and are looking at some policy changes, but they're hoping over the next couple of years to be able to transition and fall under them as their authorizer. But until that point in time, we'll continue to, or we're recommending to continue to be the authorizer for PCCS and action. And like I said, in your, you have a couple things, their bylaws are included in there, all of the governance, all of the resources. We really just are their authorizing agent. I do make a couple of site visits each year over there, coordinate with the school administrator, but the governance, they have their own board, they have their own governance, their own policies. They really are. We're really just the kind of the oversight and make sure that they're meeting their requirements in terms of performance, and they really run their own charter through PCCS. Heather, I can tell you. a
Yeah,
question.
so is the idea that by having a different authorizer, I mean, it sounds like that gives them more access to more charter school type resources that we don't?
I believe so.
Is
Like I
that-
said, I think that was initially the plan. I don't know where, I think at one time, maybe as they started this charter, maybe there wasn't as, I don't want to say as good a relate, maybe there was more of, we just need somebody so that we can get this started, and then we'll work towards getting that charter put in place. But I know that as we've worked together, or as I've worked with Mike over the last couple of years, we really have, they've done a good job in getting things set up and established over there, and are pretty, as far as a charter goes, pretty well established and functioning.
How does the funding follow? I mean, I'm just curious.
They have all their own, it's
So
charter
that's not
school
part of
funding. It's not
our,
part of our,
No.
no, we don't do anything. They report to us their financials, and Jonathan reviews it to make sure that, you know, that everything's being done properly and correctly, and that's part of that annual report that they submit to us. But we don't have anything to do. They get to make all their own choices.
but as far as the state funding for a student that goes there versus the public school, that money follows them to the charter
Correct.
school? Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't have anything.
So, and I would say in regard to the authorization, that's probably been a request for 15 years.
That's what I was gonna say.
So,
I thought maybe it was a long time,
yeah.
but that's probably been a
yeah,
request,
It
but
precedes me as superintendent even. And initially, I think maybe there was a draw on administrative resources, which is the reason for that, because of the oversight that we provided. But I would say generally that they are pretty self-sufficient,
Yeah.
and it doesn't really take or demand anything on our time. As AJ said, he spends a little bit of time over there, multiple meetings with Mr. Mendive, but that's about it. So, yeah.
very minimal.
Probably-
Except for the financials.
Yeah. So Jonathan, Mr. Balls does review those, as the board does each year when they come and provide their annual update on finances and achievement.
They have to get audited just like we do, submit to the state all the same requirements. It's we just add another layer of
Just a little oversight to
oversight on it.
make sure they're compliant.
They're ready to cut the apron strings.
We'll see.
They may be.
They
We'll
have to have
see.
a charter, though.
I
They
think
do, yes, and
that's
to
kind of where
operate, they
that
have to have
came
that
into
charter.
play was, we're really just kind of a middleman. They need to
Mm-hmm.
submit all of this information to the state anyway, and it needs to come through here because originally they could not be authorized by the Charter Commission. And then they changed that law multiple years ago, and since they did, that's when we started that process of,
Changing
You know,
the
yeah,
authorizer.
Gotcha.
So do we have like a deadline in place for them?
We haven't ever set a
Yes.
deadline for them. I mean, we could, I know they've been working towards that, and we haven't talked about that. He's hoping in the next couple of years, they will be able to transition over. Like I said, when I talked with him last, said there's still some bylaws and other things we'd have to do. But they're in the process of doing that with their board right now, and said they know that. I don't know that that they're in any hurry to do that, as we've talked to him. Like I said, but on our end, it's minimal in terms of the oversight that we have for them to continue. They're very self-sufficient in terms of their operation at this point. Any additional questions? Okay, thank you.
Next, Tanya Wilkes will report on the following: policy and procedure 8308, student injuries, illnesses, and medications, second reading for adoption, and 8706. Is that right? And 8706?
oh, we need to go back to the action on that PCCS.
Oh, yes,
Oh,
we
that's
will.
what I was just gonna ask. We have to do the action.
Okay,
It's like,
I'll wait. I'll finish it. I would entertain a motion to approve the renewal of PCC performance certificate as presented. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the renewal of the PCCS performance certificate as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? The motion passed. And so, as I was saying, I'll continue where I was. 8706, out-of-state activities involving overnight travel, second reading for adoption.
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. Again, this is our second reading of the first one, 8308, with student injuries, illness, and medication. Our medical emergency response teams were formed last year in lieu of the Narcan and so forth making sure that our kids are safe, and we wanted to add the epinephrine pins, and so we need to add that to our policy. Any questions? Okay. So do
So
you want
you
to pass
just-
them, or do you want me to do the next?
Well, we do both, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. both.
So the following one is the out-of-state activities. We did not have it in policy to have those background checks for all chaperones, which makes sense, and so we wanted to add that to the policy. Any questions with the overnight out-of-state? Okay.
I already thought that was policy.
Practice.
So
Good
I would
practice.
entertain a motion to hear on second reading for adoption, policy 8308, student injuries, illnesses, and medication, and policy 8706, out-of-state activities involving overnight travel. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board hear on second reading for adoption policy 8706 for out-of-state activities involving overnight travel, and policy 8308, student injuries, illnesses, and medication.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. Next on the agenda is the Human Resource Report, which will be presented by Brenda Miner, a staffing update.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members. We are getting close. It seems like I keep coming up here and to update on where we are with staffing, and now all of a sudden it's less than a month away. So we do have a job fair this Thursday here from 9 to 1. And we've been doing some radio promotions and those types of things for all of our positions. As far as certified goes, we don't have very many openings. We have, in the middle school, we have 1 science and 1 English. We didn't have any openings until last week. 2 popped up when I was mentioning for people to sign their contracts. They were a couple people who hadn't signed yet and have made the decision not to return. So we have those 2 positions in the middle school. In the high school, we have a math position at Century, a PE health at Century, and a special education at Pocatello High School. At PV Tech, we do have a few more openings. Pending the approval, we have our welding teachers taking a year leave of absence. We have culinary arts, a CNA position, construction. All 3 of those are .5 positions. And then we have a CRW position, a community resource worker at Wilcox, a social worker part-time at New Horizon, and as always, we're looking for SLP positions, and we have 1 of those. As far as in our classified, we have, I was looking at them today, and there looks to be quite a variety. I was visiting with our bus garage, and they have been able to hire a couple people. We have some food service, custodial, groundskeeper, a secretary at one of our elementaries, and paraprofessionals and behavior techs. And those positions, I'm not as concerned about those right now because principals usually they try not to hire those positions till they come back here in the next couple of weeks, just because with no one working over the summer, sometimes they'll take a position and then they end up hiring in August because someone has had to take a position over the summer instead. So those are our positions that we have available, and we're hopeful all the departments will be here for the job fair. If you're more than welcome to stop by. And a lot of times we get quite a bit of success from those. Questions?
I just had a question on the welding. I mean, that's a pretty important position.
It is.
I mean, with as popular as that program is, heaven forbid you don't find someone, what happens to that program?
Sue, do you want to come up and speak to that, please? It's,
Because
Yeah,
did we find a
it'll-
construction first? Wasn't that one of the?
So we have a .5 construction,
You-
culinary arts, CNA. And keep in mind, Rhonda was
Construction is open. You don't
open.
have one yet.
And keep in mind, Rhonda was gone, and so she's getting some of these interviews set up. So some of those positions that I mentioned have candidates.
Okay, very good.
So the other part we're going to do is see if we can hire a construction person. If there's an interest with some of those welding students to move over to construction for the year, then we'll move them into that for a year. And if not, we will be putting them in for next year. So,
Okay.
we have talked with ISU too about getting our high, the ones that are finishing up the last bit to see if they can.
go over there and finish the program. Yeah, I think
So.
for seniors, that's a big deal.
I agree.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, topic on the agenda is the business operations, which will be presented by Jonathan Balls. He will be reporting on the PV tag, supplemental levy and L2 discussion, the Bench Road Highland property update, Olympus Junction, Highland rebuild update, bus routes, and EV bus update.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for your time. I thought I'd stand and see if I am a little more, have a little more brevity to see through these topics. But just a couple great updates here for you by way of information on our PV Tech project. Again, in our existing building, the painting is almost, it is all but complete. Carpet is going down in that first, we call it the horseshoe, kind of that pod over there. Cabinets are going in as well. And we're working, our architect is working with the city of Chubbuck to get occupancy. And we heard today that should happen that second week in August. So that should be enough time to get the teachers moved in and be able to start school in the existing building there. As you know, on the new building, that will be a little bit about a month later than that, maybe 6 weeks. But walls are going up. If you've driven by there, walls are going up in the inside of there, and that is on track, still to be completed probably late September. And so that's an update.
So a question then, my follow-up question on the welding piece. Do those classes not start at the beginning then? What's going to happen those first couple weeks? Will they stay at ISU or?
We will be able to
They have a whole lot of safety.
Yeah.
utilize.
Classroom.
Okay, classroom stuff first, that's,
So their classrooms will be completed.
but the lab won't.
Yeah.
Awesome, great.
Yeah. They're excellent, and yeah, thank you but yeah, those classrooms will be done, so they'll be able to have them if we have the instructors.
That
Okay.
kind of thing, yeah.
Yep,
As it is.
yes, it is. Okay, if there's not any questions on that, this is, again, by way of information, just to start you thinking about supplemental levy. Again, it's just by information today. However, in August, it will be for action. And so we're talking about the 25, 26, 26, 27 supplemental levy that will be voted upon in November. Okay, so I have one sheet in front of you is just from the budget hearing that we talked about. It kind of shows the last 3-4 years of what our supplemental levy has been. For years and years, it was 9.25. Then in 22-23, when we had some surplus money, that the board decided to reduce that by $2 million. And then again, the last election was for the 23-24, 24-25. And I know there was a typo there. But
I was not going to call it out.
it actually was it was last month as well, so it's, yeah.
I caught it then too, but.
I thought, no, I don't want to just correct it there. But yes, that is the 24-25 school year estimated there. And so this is our current school year would be the last voter-approved year for the supplemental levy. And so in August, as I say, we need to determine, the board will vote on that amount, because that will have to get to the wording, as you remember from our bonding and everything, or the wording for the ballot will have to get to the county by that Friday of Labor Day. So essentially by the end of August. So just kind of wanted to get that information flowing there for you. I've also included, this is a new requirement that we have to put a notice of how we use that supplemental levy. If you remember when we voted for this 23-24 supplemental levy, in there it spelled out what we were going to spend this $8.25 million on. And that's in this allocated amount or the expected amount on that left-hand side for salaries and benefits, operations, special education, technology, and transportation. And then what we actually spent it on, and we did. We spent it on exactly what we said there. Again, on the bottom, that's not required, but I saw another school district do that, and I thought I liked that. Again, on the ballot, it showed, we estimated this would cost $113.07. And it actually ended up excluding, remember, we got that payment from the school district facilities fund, but if we hadn't received that, it still would have been $108.65. I also wanted to bring this up because the next round, again, being the very first year, Carl and I, as we talked about it with Dr. Howell and the cabinet, we felt that these are all great things that we use our supplemental levy on. That being said, if heaven forbid that supplemental levy were to fail, we still have to provide special education, and we still have to transport. So that's not a true meaning. So it will, obviously salaries and benefits will be there, might be slightly increased, but I will probably put in some, through discussion, through the board and so forth, probably some athletics travel, some of these things that are definitely not covered, by the state at all. And so, again, just to kind of show our patrons, okay, this is why we ask, to vote for this supplemental levy, or put the information.
I really like this legislation because I think it's so much easier for people to support it when
Absolutely.
they see.
Absolutely.
Because nobody could disagree with these things.
Correct.
How important these things are.
Correct.
So I really like it.
Yeah. So again, this will be published in the paper. It will be published every July, and we'll kind of review this at, every July and so forth.
So on the actual amount,
Yeah.
that's not actually the amount that they had to pay because it's excluding the school district facilities
That is
fund.
correct. That is
So
correct.
at some point, can we say the actual amount that they, because that's not actually true. I know I've already said this before, but can we add that as that
Well,
nobody will see that on their taxes?
and you're right.
So-
You're right. And this is for last year.
Yeah, the new
I
legislation
understand that
that was brought
legislation.
For
forward
the
said that we cannot advertise it.
We can't say that in addition to that at all?
Exactly.
on
So-
the ballot.
Yeah, on the ballot.
And so I
So
made
within
it the same.
our own informational meetings that we provide to our various community groups and to our school staff and so forth, then we can say what the net
So-
should be.
So technically, it could be on here, if we
Well, we
wanted-
just can't put it on the
This
ballot.
is what goes on the ballot.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
this is, oh, I see, okay,
Yeah.
so that's why, okay.
And especially, for example, this coming school year, we're going to get a payment. It'll probably be right around that $3 million mark for the school district facilities fund. We'll get that in August, and I'll report that, to the board for this coming school year. But again, for the ballot in November, we won't even know what that will get. And so it just makes it cleaner, makes it
Yeah, that makes-
consistent that we just exclude that amount.
Oh,
And
I
then
see.
whatever we do receive, hopefully we continue to receive it for the taxpayer savings. And so
And does that go away with the new facilities fund?
it does not. I think it will be impacted, but initially, no. They're
Okay.
saying not.
Okay,
But again, I'm not counting anything anymore.
yeah.
So we'll get it when, we count it when it gets to our bank account. Yeah.
Okay. Just for clarification,
Yes.
can you tell me what day-to-day operations? What?
Okay, so that would be anything from utilities to, textbooks, just to the, what do we have it at? Yeah, 850,000. So it was some of the little bit of supplies. That was kind of the, everything that I kind of just mentioned there, to just keep the lights on from the heat, the power, everything goes there.
Copies.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And like I say, in August, we'll talk about that because we'll need to, share these same categories, and whatever the amount says, that's what what the board decides on, we'll put that in the ballot.
Okay, so that makes sense as to why we can't say an amount, because we don't know.
Correct,
the
we
amount.
truly
Okay,
do not know.
I understand.
Correct. This is looking back, so that 10865, yeah, that's to the penny of what it would have been excluding that school district facilities fund. So start thinking about that, and we will have a bigger discussion with action item in August. Okay, wanted to provide an update to the Bench Road property, the property exchange agreement. As you remember, we are right in the middle of our due diligence period. I talked with the developer today. He's asked some questions of the city, just had a few questions as it borders, as it borders the land to the north and make sure there wasn't any issue there. He doesn't foresee that there will be an issue. All of his questions should be able to be answered. And so we're still anticipating closing those last few days of July or the first couple days of August. So we will proceed and plan for that accordingly.
And we don't have to do anything with that.
No,
Just
nope,
go
that was
ahead
just
and-
for information, because again,
No,
you've.
You already took
Took
action
action.
We already approved
previously?
and it's already done.
Correct.
Okay.
And Dr. Howell will send out messages when that transaction is completed. Or, we'll update the board for sure. Now, on the property at is what we call Olympus Junction of, I guess now it's the property of Jerome. It was Olympus and Jerome there. In front of you, this is for action. We got an appraisal on the 13-plus acres that is not part of this property exchange. And we wanted the board to kind of review that and accept the appraisal, and then also wanted to kind of just get your sense of, well, the future of that land and maybe any possible timelines that you're thinking about as a school board. About that, well, let's call it 13 and a half acres there on, further up on Jerome to the east.
So, I'm sorry. I
That's-
would entertain a motion to accept the Olympus Junction Lot 2 appraisal as presented. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board accept the Olympus Junction Lot Number 2 appraisal as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? The motion passed. And now the rebuild update?
Okay, yes. Okay.
So I think with that, although it's not for action,
Yeah.
in regard to the budget, we wanted to know if the board would give us some direction on the timeline. I know we've talked about this a couple times. In terms of the rebuild, we know that we'll have 2.5 to 3 years to, I'm fudging that a little bit, right? But it's scheduled for a 3-year project. So the board would have, I would say, at least those 3 years to make a determination. We could move forward if you would like. We could wait until that project's completed. We can wait until we have more solid numbers
Correct,
once
the
the bid's
bids.
completed.
Correct.
So maybe if the board could just tell us your thinking in regard to that property, then we will be better prepared for a plan to move forward with you and get it kind of scheduled or on the books.
Well, I think we kind of gave everybody the impression that we were going to use that money when we asked for the bond in the first place. We had mentioned the sale of property and things like that, so I think we need to follow through with that's where it would go. And then, of course, if we have any extra money from the facilities fund, I mean, it's gonna be the same.
And I think this was
Anyway.
property that we don't, I mean, the only use for it for the school district is the sale. And so, of course, nobody has a crystal ball.
You mean whether to sell it or not?
Right.
Oh,
How soon you'd like
How
to do
soon?
that?
I mean,
Yeah.
I noticed in Jim's comments that he thought we should hang on to it for 10 years. Not real, knowing if the
Sure.
market has capped at this point or not. I mean, no one's got a crystal ball, but I mean, before Angie left, I mean, that was also one of her, I just remember her making that comment that we need to be selling this property and using it towards the rebuild, but.
I mean, I don't have a strong opinion other than that we had mentioned that in our bond discussions. So.
Yeah, I'm just curious on when we got the property, what was the plan for it at that point? Like,
How
That
many
was
years?
before all of it.
like,
Did we track that back to 77? Was
Yeah,
it?
7, yes, correct.
we've just sat on it since
Yeah,
then.
it wasn't,
Future elementary or
Future elementary,
Okay.
but that was before Gate City.
long before.
And so.
so, and then really Gate City probably is big enough for a middle school, right? With all of that property they have above it. So I guess if they wanted to still do, like, change that to a middle, I don't know, I'm just guessing.
You wouldn't necessarily have the green space if you develop the rest of that green space now. And so
And that-
I don't know.
Not now.
Yes,
No,
as it
not
is.
now.
And we're actually trying to investigate, according to the online, that's not our property, actually, above Gate City.
Okay.
We don't know if it's an error. Sorry, 100% full disclosure.
Did you not do home battle?
No, I mean, again, this is whenever it was bought in the, early 80s?
So
But when I look
who
at it,
is
it's not, I think it's one of the developers up there. It's a name. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up, but yeah, that might, obviously, we
Title
can't,
That's good
investigation happening on
information.
that.
what?
There's a land deed investigation happening on that.
Okay.
Is that what you're telling me?
Well, it hasn't started
Oh,
yet,
okay.
but that's what I kind of need to just investigate that, correct? So,
I would think, at least from just me speaking here, I think there's nothing 13 acres is going to do for us there. I had always thought that this would be something we would use. So I would like to see us kind of investigate.
Okay, and it would be a bidding
Getting rid of it.
process, if you
Yeah.
want to talk about that.
yep, so
Anyone
again,
else?
we're trying to understand how that would go. It would be announced, it'd be a bid. The appraisal amount comes into play there. It has to be an
about
open
2.5 million right now.
session.
2.8.
Yeah, 2.8. So it has to be an open session. But these bids, and then there's some different caveats. Okay, what if we don't get the minimum bid? Okay, then we can, go out,
We can just wait
solicit
then,
offer. Correct,
right?
we could. Yeah, the waiting is always an option. So yeah, that's kind of essentially the process. Just like selling our equipment, it has to be kind of put out to the public. But this will be kind of sealed bids.
So
We'll ask for some down payment, right, just to make sure you're serious. Everything that our bidding requirements, require.
And then we just receive all the bids, and that's what you're saying?
Sure, yeah, it would be like a bid
Open
opening.
session?
Yep, it'd be a bid opening, just like, the board would have to approve that.
So what do you think that we should do with it?
So I appreciate the board saying, you know what, we'll honor what we said previously to put that money toward. It's just, again, for me, I would say it's the timing. So whereas construction is starting to slow down really because of the rates and so forth, it may be wise to wait just a little while. And again, I would like to see where these bids come in because we know that we're looking at some of those supplementals.
Extras.
Yeah, and so I think that's important. But eventually, yes, within the period of the project completion, I think it's definitely worth looking at.
Right.
And I think that's totally, I like that, and I think it's reasonable if we don't get our bid, then certainly we don't have to sell it
Yeah,
if we don't get the asking price.
yeah. So, and with that in mind, you could go ahead and start that process, knowing that that's your minimum, or close to that, we'll say. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the other thing, I just don't know, is there an optimal time? I've never sold land before. That's normally your bids are a timing element as well.
Right.
I mean, we know construction bids, right? We're gonna have to bid in January because
I
that's.
think we'd all be rich if we knew the answer to that
Yeah.
question. Yes.
Right. As you look around the city though, and our region, I think that a lot of the development has just really slowed down.
Cooled off.
So I think to get that optimal price or get closer to it, it might be worthwhile to wait just a little while
Yeah.
and see, revisit this in a year's time or
Yeah.
6 months' time or
I'm-
9 months.
I'm fine with just putting it aside for now.
Yeah,
mean,
I agree. Like,
I mean,
the intent would be to eventually sell it, but let's sell it on a good market.
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's totally fine.
And within 6 to 8 weeks, we could have it, have it down there, so we can turn around fairly quick, if we see
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, as long as we have enough for our project, the rebuilding.
absolutely.
Then we're okay.
Yep.
Because that was kind of what we had said, is that would go toward that, but if we have enough for it, then Yeah.
Okay. Now to the Highland update. Again, we're still, the architect is, we haven't seen any new drawings of the entire project. They're working with their engineers, their consultants. For example, we have a meeting this week with the kitchen staff, hopefully next week with technology, and just trying to, get the requirements of the details of these different spaces. So their Design West is hard at work. I did want to update the board on the demolition. So we had those first meetings. Design West did give Bateman Hall a set of drawings on how to handle the demo. As again, detaching it from the existing building is the most critical part, as well as utilities, and that was the most of our meeting. Again, Design West is going to get some updated drawings. For example, the power to upper B runs through the hallway of the D building. So we have to relocate that. And obviously, we only want to relocate it once, so outside of the new footprint of the building, as well as the gas line. And so what that takes is basically Design West will produce some drawings. Bateman Hall will do the bid packages. And this will be just like any bid, like in the spring where I came and showed you the results of the bid package, but we'll have Bateman Hall is here as well, and the board will see the results of these bid packages. So right now it could be up to 3 or 4. The power, it's actually plumbing that will affect the gas, probably an abatement. Brian Glenn, our maintenance coordinator, got the asbestos reports to them for that D building, because that has to be removed before we demo. And then, of course, the big demo, part. The other goal for this would also be to have that site prepared, or they call it the pad prepared. The goal for that would basically be before Thanksgiving, first part of November. So that way, as soon as the snow is gone in the spring, we're rocking and rolling there.
And do they feel like we
Yes.
can accomplish that?
Yes, they're very optimistic. Again, they want to make, the demo is important, right? I mean, again, as you're talking these utilities, we want to make sure we protect the building that's staying. And so they are taking a thorough look at those drawings, make sure we do that right. But then again, with these bid packages and then the tie-ins to the power, it will be done on a weekend, because the power might have to be out for upper B for about a day sometime. Well, maybe we could do that over Labor Day, for example. So I might be coming even, or a special meeting, probably maybe the end of August, if we can't hit a regular board meeting, be able to get some of these to you.
Because that has to be done anyway.
It does.
So I
It does.
think it's
And this is part of
really-
it's all in these big numbers
Yeah.
here that we'll discuss here or there. I also wanted to update, again, Brian has been working with Idaho Power, calling it a refeed, or it's basically getting additional power to that Highland campus. And so new transformer, but again, Idaho Power is doing a lot of the work. Of course, we'll pay for it eventually over the next 30 years in the facility charge, but they're getting prepared, so we'll be able to have enough power for our additional building.
So when it's all said and done, will these be 2 transformers, one that is for the lower campus and one that is for the new construction, or will it just be the one transformer that feeds both?
So the big one that we're talking about will just be the one. I'm looking in the back, just the one, just the one transformer.
And so it will always be separate, so then the next part will be part of the new construction.
And we're talking the big, Idaho Power transformer that will feed the whole campus. Obviously, there'll be different sections. There'll still be, different panels inside the building that this transformer will feed to. So again, you can isolate different areas of the building with electricity. The next one, we did get an updated, again, no new drawings, but we hadn't seen, for example, the official number of that cafe booth mezzanine up there. So we wanted to kind of put that in front of the board there. But then also wanted, and this is again what was for action, we kind of talked about, initially, we had classrooms on the existing auditorium stage. And you see, we estimating that right at 570,000.
Oh.
Again, we talked in the committee, I think we even talked in the board, okay, do we take that money and use it to build, the new classrooms? And I guess that's kind of our recommendation, that, again, these classrooms that would be on the stage, that wouldn't have any windows, and it is a very difficult build,
Expensive.
a very expensive build. And so I guess the action item that, or what I'd like the board to consider is basically just removing that from the base bid, and therefore freeing up some money to be able to, once we see those bids of these alternate scopes, at least, have $570,000 more to be able to do, these classrooms that we need.
And not wasting time.
Correct.
Okay, so when you say that 500,000, that's not include, on the
It is.
classroom bid, it's like 2 million. So is that like subtract 500,000 from that you've already allotted for those? Do you know what I'm asking?
I believe so. So if you look 3 lines up from that classroom remodel, existing auditorium stage,
Yes.
you see that? So that 569, basically, I would like to remove that line, and therefore, that would drop the base scope, but then in our budget, that would free up, 569 we'd like it to go to be able to, get as many classrooms as we can. Because again, the 6, is costing 2.1 million. They will bid it, as I understand it, per classroom. So, okay, the board can say, okay, I want 4, I want 5, I want 6. Obviously, there'll be some optimal numbers there. But I think the 6 is, that's the one we looked, and that's what I think we're trying to find the money to do that. And by eliminating those classrooms on top of the stage, we'll maybe get closer to be able to do that.
I have a question about the mezzanine. I think that where the windows were only on the one side, we talked a lot about how it will never get direct sunlight. So it'll be kind of a dark commons. But to me, the windows on the side there, where the mezzanine would be, saves that common area, in my opinion. It saves it and makes it a bright and nice place. But my question is can we just have the windows without the mezzanine? Because then we don't,
Absolutely, absolutely.
and then it wouldn't
If
be
the
that
board-
478.
Correct. If the board decides that, I know, again, we call it these features, right? These are just features. Is it required? No. But is it something nice in the space there? My thoughts on at least all these alternates that we still put them out as alternates. And then the board will basically, just when we get all the bids back, and it will be separated, okay, here's the base, here's everything at the base bids, and then here's your alternate 1 through 4. Here's what it's actually gonna cost us. Okay, board, what do we recommend?
And I
we
think
do
it's
that?
really important for us to know too, that 61 million, which will be reduced if we take the classes off the stage, that isn't just rebuilding. And I think we maybe with
Oh, absolutely. No, this
communications,
is great.
we need to make sure that we are communicating that to the public, that
Correct.
these are major remodels too. It's
Absolutely.
majors. There's millions of dollars
Yeah,
worth
rebuild
of
and upgrade.
existing remodels. And it's just bringing it up to the level of
Yeah.
our other 2 high schools.
Sure.
Really, and so that's part of this rebuild,
That is correct.
is really bringing it up to kind of the standard that we kind of have in the district.
Correct. Yeah, rebuild, upgrade, yeah.
So I have 2 questions. So the second floor auxiliary gym space, originally on some of his designs, that was one of the extra. Is that what I'm talking about? The one that was
That is
purple? So
correct.
now we've built that into, that's just,
We built that in, that
That
was,
is the
that,
base
yeah,
now.
that came the last version, even though it was counted as an extra, but when they really put the pen to paper, it would not have saved us that much money to put it as an alternate because you'd have to redesign the roof structure and then the shear wall.
And you have to
And
have a roof anyway.
And you'd have to have the roof anyway, and it was probably cheaper to actually continue the
go
roof.
straight out.
And so you can show a double a two-story on that south side.
Okay, so that, I just wanted to make sure I understood that. 'Cause
Yep.
then the other question then would be the additional, the number 3, additional storage for both floors. So is that other, again, I'm trying to remember the drawings. Was that
Sure,
that
we could-
additional next to the track in the weight room? Is that
Two-
storage
two.
room?
Yep,
Correct.
Yeah.
That's what that piece is.
Yep,
And then
that
the
two
music
story.
loft storage area was just above the band and the choir.
Choir, yep, so
Those
they would
multiple
have
storage areas.
multiple storage rooms that
not
they would
just-
access for each.
Okay, I'm just trying to,
No,
that was, I
perfect.
just couldn't remember when they said the alternate, and was that the only alternate storage?
Is
that
it just
on the-
one room on that one?
For
or
which
how
one?
many weight room?
Yeah, on number 3, how many storage
Yeah,
rooms?
so
Uh,
it's
they'd be
this,
both
that
floors.
space right there,
Yep.
or is it all of
two
these
floors.
spaces?
Yeah, 2 floors
So all of those blue areas?
for the storage, for
But see, I
the
think
music room.
that's these are number 4, and then
Correct.
this is number 3.
Okay,
Is that your understanding?
let me take a look again.
Yes.
Three is just the box
remembering
of
that-
the 2 floors.
Correct. It
Of
was
the-
just a little nook that,
Yeah.
yeah,
This-
that we're able to,
Yeah, see how those,
I think the answer is yes, yeah.
okay. Okay,
So, yeah. And obviously, we will, and that's what I've told, obviously, I got commented by the music teachers, oh, we'd love that storage. I said, yep, I understand. We'll do everything we can to get that, get these additional, items or alternates in the bid. I'm hoping that, that the numbers come back. But that's why we do that, so that way we can, make those decisions. And it will be in January, probably.
so then maybe even just to tail on Deanna's comment, this mezzanine is just that balcony with.
Yep.
So as far as
Couple
just
tables.
leaving it windows, that's not in this, that's just part of the wall.
Correct. That would be part of the
That's
base.
not
The
an extra.
bid,
Right.
the bid is just a wall.
The
So
base would be
this
the
is
wall
just
and the
referring
windows.
to that little balcony with
Yeah.
booths and an
And then some
overlook.
stairs, there'd be some stairs
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the,
But we already
to the
have
east
the
there.
stairs.
well, they have to have stairs on
adding
both
extra
sides now.
Oh, they'd have to make
the window
another
side.
staircase.
Correct, for
Wow.
access and egress to get out.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
that
So,
helps clarify then.
So the good thing is that, okay, there is some time, and we could have the architects back and kind of, okay, let's look at that mezzanine with and without. What are the pros and
Yeah.
cons there?
And you
Yeah.
gotta pick
And even
design
so,
of that.
and then we see what the numbers come back at.
Uh-huh,
Okay, is this a feature? It's a feature. Is this a feature that we want?
uh-huh. And
If the
I
numbers
guess
are
one
right.
thought, I guess I didn't realize that it was requiring another set of stairs. I want the windows,
Yeah.
but I don't know if this is even okay. But anyway, we can talk about it later, but if we put it to the other side, so that we can use the stairs that are already there in the auditorium.
They still have to have 2 sets.
Sure.
But they're just just a few feet behind there, and so, I mean, it just seems like it would be reasonable
We'd have to get with.
to be able to have that be, all it is an emergency exit, correct?
Well, it'd be used for sure, but it's just through
Right.
code that you have to have.
The code,
to-
for
yeah,
code.
For egress.
It just
to be able
seems
to
like
get
it
out.
would be able to be used, because it's right on that same,
And we'd have to get with the architect to see if,
anyway, just seeing if we
If
could
we
save
did
money
that.
that way, but.
sure. We could definitely ask there. Again, you're gonna see, it'll probably be by next month, you'll see another full set of drawings that we can definitely ask Kent and his team, yeah, definitely about that. So I guess the action item before you is if, really, do you want classrooms on the existing auditorium stage or not?
So that's the only alternative that
there's
we're
more there.
voting on? Because
Or-
it looks
or
to me
am I
like to
wrong?
approve all the alternates.
Or all-
I wonder if maybe our communication, we can change the motion, that is just a
Oh, sorry.
recommended motion. But if we need to, I think what I had done was have them approve which alternates they'd like to keep.
So we want to
If it's
split the
all of
motion.
them, then we would say remove, the only thing that I would do is maybe add to remove the 2 classrooms in the old auditorium from the base plan that was approved last month.
So, the
addition
motion
to.
would be to approve the HHS project alternatives,
Mm-hmm. With the addition of-
and take away the 2 classrooms on the
Yeah.
stage.
And again, by saying you approve the alternates, you're still gonna,
Right.
leaving the option to say yes or no, right, in
Well,
January?
if we say it that way, we wouldn't be leaving the option, but we can split the motion
I just,
and
I
approve
think
what we
you
want to
might,
approve.
let's say the bids go terrible. I mean, we gotta plan for the worst case scenario.
So we want to split the bid.
I
We
think
want to
you'd
split the
want to
motion.
say that to, proceed with these bid alternates,
Dependent on,
depending on, accepting them
And
depending
that's
on
already
future.
the case, because that's what we did
I would
last
probably
board
say that.
meeting. So all we need to do is just approve taking the
So
classrooms off the stage?
I think originally when we were talking about the alternates, and maybe the reason that I thought that we needed the motion for it was because they wanted to know if the board wanted to pursue the design for each of those
Yeah.
alternates.
Kent wants
Correct.
to
So that
know
was where-
And that, okay,
definitively
yes, that's correct.
Right.
if we want to do the alternates.
Like move
Right.
forward with, do you
And
want the
it's-
design done?
Again, full disclosure, it's
Yeah.
about $15,000 to design these alternates.
Each.
No, he did say,
As a package.
yeah, he did say as a package.
Okay.
I know that's what you said. I think he came back, because some of these were very easy.
That is way
The
too
storage room.
expensive. If it's each,
Oh, yeah.
Well,
No, yeah, correct.
that is ridiculous.
I wanted to clarify.
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct. No, I know. I'll stand by it. I think it's 15 altogether.
Okay, so I know you asked at the beginning about the classrooms versus the classroom remodel on the stage. I think we would be a big miss if we didn't shoot for the 6 classrooms and plan on that growth.
Agree.
While you're in there
Agree.
doing it, you should get it done the right way.
And
agree.
that's what the committee, yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
and that's what Jim expressed,
Yep.
that,
Yeah.
we'll do everything I can just to
so what,
do what we can to find the money there.
Yeah, I just know you mentioned taking that off the alternate list and putting it in
uh-huh,
the actual thing, and I'm behind that.
I am too. So we can,
I don't know, is that,
So
I'm also
do
in
we-
favor of, I'm not a fan of the mezzanine.
I'm not either.
And I know Jim said he was.
well, he said he said he's fine with it. He just said if something has to go, is what he said.
I
If
would
something
agree with
has
that.
to
That's
go.
I mean, I
my,
guess
that's
I
my
would
lowest
have a
priority as well.
question, Sue.
I
or
want
any
the
other that
windows because
roams the
I think
halls in
it's
the
a
high
huge
school.
mistake.
Is that a place kids will go?
It'll be a place to go, but it'll be more difficult to supervise
Mm-hmm.
2 levels of lunch.
And I also see those booths
And clean.
I don't
Cleaning?
like booths.
I think it would be a hassle.
I don't like
For
the
everyone.
booths. I think it should
It
be
just
like
felt-
at Century, up on the upper level that they have. They have tables and chairs
I
that
don't
can
think
be
there's room
moved.
enough.
I don't think the mezzanine designing is big enough to put a
Right.
table that you can walk all the way around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would just
Is
be,
it 15 feet wide, I
Can we
think?
just ask him how much it costs to do windows?
It's already in the base. It's already in the base.
Windows there,
Right.
Oh,
So again,
okay.
you're,
if you want a mezzanine in front of it.
Oh, okay.
I think that's,
and if the board decides that, sure, we,
I mean, because what,
Cross
that was
that
a
off.
million
Yeah,
something?
I mean, we can always,
least-
they can always ask for it to be put back again if
Yeah, it's
they,
half a mil.
if they talk about in the committee and say, but there are these benefits that you weren't considering, and then ask us again. But right, for now, we can just say, let's take it off.
at least
So we
right-
don't have to pay for the design.
Sure, at least right now, again, I wasn't planning, on any, getting the committee back together, until we have some new drawings, in a month or so.
Yeah.
I think the only benefit I heard is that the cheerleaders someone could stand up there and watch them.
And video.
They can do that at the top of those stairs.
Right,
There's
yeah.
already a mezzanine there.
That was,
I'm okay with taking it off and leaving the windows. Not okay with not doing the windows.
Sure,
I don't
no,
think
we
that's
would
on
still.
the table, so.
Yeah.
So I've got a question.
Go ahead.
So then it seems like if you take off alternate 2, the mezzanine, there's $478,000. And then if you take off the classroom remodel on the stage, that's $569,000. So you've got
$1 million.
you've got about $1 million there that can go toward the alternate 6 classrooms. I mean, that's almost half of the cost there.
Agree.
I
So
like it.
Agree. I do too. I do.
And I think the storage is gonna be, you gotta do storage. Although this auditorium now could become a huge storage room.
No, I think that, you can never have too much storage, and based upon what I heard, they need the storage, that's only $302K, and the music loft, I mean, from what I heard, that is valuable storage there for $521. I think what Megan said about the classrooms, 6 additional classrooms, it just, I think, what I get out of it, based upon what I've seen from the plans before, if you take away the classroom remodel on the stage, there's $570K, and you take away the mezzanine, another $478, and so, I think that's good because that gets you just about half of those 6 additional classrooms. But I agree, the storage for the music loft and the additional storage, I mean, you know, you can never have too much storage. So that would be my input.
So what I'm hearing, let me summarize, and we're making some great steps. I mean, this is great. Wasn't planning on that, but you take us where we need to get. So do we just roll alternate 1, 3, and 4, take off the classroom, remodel on the existing stage, and just put that in the base?
Yes.
I would say yes.
And then we will do all we can to find money to pay for it.
And then
It's-
also
Also
take the
property.
highlight off of the auxiliary and ask.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And to ask them to
And
take
the
care of
highlight- the
that
highlight is-
Do we
money.
need to make a motion? Is that what you?
Yeah, that money shouldn't be
No, I
there
was just
either.
wanting to clarify if what you were
extra
saying was
money.
to put the alternates into the base. Is
Well,
that what you're
is
asking?
that what I heard the board?
I know it sounds like you guys want to do that, but do you want to keep them as alternates to see how those bids come in before committing to
Correct, that would be the.
money?
I would say no.
I would
I
say put it in
I
the
think
budget.
these are,
I wanted to
the
Because-
classrooms
because we have to
are
pay for
no-brainers. The classrooms are non-negotiables.
And we're on the same page, and so, yeah, using Ray's math there, yeah, so you're take off $1 million, yeah, so you're 1.8 million there in alternates that we're rolling up there. Yeah, I think, I mean, that'd be a great base bid, and it would save us a little money, at least in the additional
Design.
design.
Right, because we don't have to design the classrooms on the stage
Correct,
either.
yeah, so we'll, a little bit of
Does it make
savings
you
there.
uncomfortable?
So would
No,
that
not at
put
all.
us-
In fact, I was,
You were, yeah,
I was thinking, I
gone
like
in a year, so
where
you know.
you're going with this, because if you include it in the base, I think the pricing may get better.
and that's,
Right.
Yeah.
that's correct.
And I think that auxiliaries, oh, sorry, Ray.
Go ahead, Ray.
I didn't hear Doug's comment. Could you repeat that, Doug?
You bet. I was just saying, I think if we include it in the base, these alternates, then the pricing may get better rather than standalone options. And
Oh,
Brian Glenn
Here we
is
go.
coming to this.
Yeah.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, absolutely, positively, I would include the storage for both floors and the music loft storage. I mean, again, storage is an issue. It was one of the issues we had with the fire. Yeah, I mean, if people build a 3-car garage and they don't have a single car in there, they always have junk in there. You can never have too much storage, whether it's at home or certainly not in the school. So I think that, the storage, I would definitely put it in the main bid and save some money. Like I say, if you're getting $1 million by taking off alternate number 2 and not doing the classroom remodels on the stage, then you're halfway to the 6 classrooms. So yeah, I think what Doug said makes sense. If we can save some money and put alternate 1, 3, and 4 in the main bid, and then just eliminate alternate 2, the mezzanine, and the classroom remodel on the stage, that sounds pretty good to me.
It sounds like we're unanimous, but also
I
it
was gonna
bothers
say,
me.
what is, Brian?
Oh,
The
sorry, go
one thing
ahead.
I will counsel you is that the more of these decisions you make now and move into the base bid, the more that's going to save you on the back end to design, because if you remove the alternates, we don't have to redesign those areas to take them out of the structural engineering and the architectural engineering. So the more of this you include in the base bid now, it will save you money in the engineering on the backside if you decide not to do those as alternates.
I think that you're right. I don't think they're gonna cost that much money, basic classrooms, when you look at the square footage. I don't know. Maybe it will, but,
I also think, though, to say we're saving $1 million is not quite right, because the 500 is still in the base. I mean,
Reprioritizing.
yeah,
1 million.
it's still, yeah.
Yeah, when we wouldn't frame it that way, I mean, just the numbers there, but it's just you're prioritizing, these are some spaces that we feel initially were, that were as alternates, but no, we feel that the 6 classrooms are important. And we always thought they were important, but we'll put them in the base bid and make them happen.
I also had a question about the wrestling. I know there was some, kind of going back and forth
Okay.
on the sizes. What was decided
Okay,
with
so,
those?
we decided that, that these prices would fit a 42 by 42 mat.
Oh, the size that Highland currently
Correct.
has?
The size
Oh,
that
okay,
they
so
currently
then
have.
it's fine
So
then.
it should, correct.
Oh,
When
okay.
We went back, we measured, I mean, it'll be to the inch, but it will, fit.
Oh, okay. Well, that's really good news.
Correct.
That they
Well,
got it.
I think what Jonathan said about, saving money on the design by, moving these alternates up into the main bid, I mean, it just, to me, it makes more sense. Why pay money for design work if we're pretty darn sure we want alternates 1, 3, and 4? Let's just save that money and use it to actually build something.
Yeah, and like you're saying about when you itemize alternatives, like they said, it came back with the auxiliary gym space. It actually isn't that much money.
Correct.
Because
we
they
have
were
to spend it.
adding roof and all this stuff where you have to have a roof anyway.
Correct.
And so I don't think it's actually, like, for example, on the additional storage for above the music loft, I don't know if they're adding roof or if they're just simply adding different trusses.
Sure, and I'm not,
I don't
and I'm
know.
not sure,
I mean-
and that's where, to Brian's point, perfectly said, was that, yeah, that if we can put that in there now, then we engineer it, completely the first time, and that will save us money
Right,
going forward.
right, because just going by what they did with the auxiliary gym space, that wasn't right. They said
Sure,
actually
correct.
it won't cost that much more money.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if that's kind of what's gonna happen with
And it could be, again, these, this will be the budget, and they're always looking at prices and so forth. It's, again, not until we get the bids in place come December, January, probably January timeframe, that we'll know for sure where all these, and again, it won't be, the bids won't come out in this same way. It'll come out, okay, here's how much it costs for carpet, cement, roofing, trusses, all the different disciplines of construction.
So the other piece that I don't see here, and maybe it's because we made the decision, was the entranceway.
We
As part
haven't
of the
made a
base
decision
plan.
on the entrance.
And that, yeah,
because-
that's all just the design detail.
Yeah, and
later.
that was
Okay.
kind of not, actually, when there's a link to the design for the public, it doesn't include the other options, which are still on the table, because when we approved the design to go forward, it was approving all the options for the front of the building. That was what we approved. But anyway, that's just really an aside. It doesn't really matter at this point. I don't even think we need to really waste time talking about it,
Sure.
because
I-
it's really not
Okay.
really pertinent.
I think
not
right
gonna
now, the way
redesign
that
it
they're
two
going
different
would be the
ways.
two-story.
Yeah, okay,
Two-story one.
that's what I thought. I just didn't know, okay.
Yeah, he won't design it 3 different ways,
Correct.
yeah.
I'd just
At
like to
least,
clarify that for the motion part,
Yes, thank you.
that I'm going to ask you to revise what I've included in the packet, that instead of moving forward with the alternates, that we're going to include alternate 1, 3, and 4 in the base design and remove the 2 auditorium classrooms from
Okay.
the base design.
Okay, so should I go ahead and do that,
If you're ready.
Yes.
as long as everybody else is ready? I would entertain a motion to approve the HHS project alternatives 1, 3, and 4, and to remove the 2 classroom remodel on the existing auditorium stage. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There you go.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? The motion passed.
Okay, thank you. I think that was very, very productive. Okay, we'll cruise through these next 2.
Will be pleased.
This next one is, again, we'll take as much time as we need. Bus routes. This is bus routes. What you have in front of you is the bus stops. Again, we try to put the routes in the most economical way there. Again, we have 49 routes. That's actually after we've reduced about three routes going through the process. Again, what you have in front of you is the bus stops through and organized by school there. Again, I just wanted, because it's, as we look in the future of transportation, safety bus stops is going to come more into play. Currently, the safety bus stop, the requirement for that is 1.5 miles around the school, as well as it looks at the crossings of major roads, for their safety for our learners. And also, okay, how much walking? Is there no sidewalks to walk to the school? So they need to be safety stop installed, as well as walking near a major waterway through our canals that we have in our communities, as well as walking next to a major thoroughfare, 55 miles an hour road. Again, those safety elements. And so you can see those stops that are classified as safety, because of those concerns there. So again, it's action item per statute that you approve these safety or these stops and subsequent bus routes that will help transport our learners to school.
I would entertain a motion to approve the 2024-2025 bus routes and authorize the administration to make adjustments throughout the year. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board set the bus routes for 2024-2025 school year and authorize the administration to make adjustments throughout the school year as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed. Now the EV bus.
Okay. Again, as we've reported, you've had a student and community members talk to you about electric buses. And so this is one of the grants that was mentioned. We reached out to a partner that will actually write this grant for us. We just have to feed them the information. This is the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicle grant from the EPA. One of the requirements is that the school district, the school board, basically authorized myself to submit an application for this grant. Again, in that second paragraph, second sentence is the most important theme. This form is not binding, meaning that applicants do not need to fully commit to proceeding with the potential new bus project if selected for funding, because we're still looking at pricing. It might be too much. We do know it's a minimum of 10 buses. And so it would basically, but we have 2 years to implement it. Okay, so if we do that. So there's still some hurdles. Brian and our energy manager, Jake, is working with Idaho Power, because again, the power, there's a lot of there. But this form is just required, probably through years of experience with the EPA, that they didn't have the governing body's approval, so this is for action for you that we can do this. Again, it's due actually on the 25th, next week, and we're just gonna start, put our hat in the ring and see. And again, this company will make us look the very best. To the EPA, and then again, no guarantee that we have to even accept this grant award. Again, we'll have numbers in front of you, and I'll update the board accordingly. But to be able to submit the grant, I need to have this approval to submit the grant, or however it was written in the motion. Any questions?
Yeah, a couple of questions for you, Jonathan.
I'll try my best there.
Yeah, so you're working with Bluebird on this?
So we will. Bluebird is the one. Yes, we're working with the Bluebird. We will still have to go out to bid for these. Let's say the grant will be awarded in November, and so we will go out to bid as we normally do. But yes, Bluebird is has the team that will help write this grant.
And then you mentioned Idaho Power, and I didn't really. I kind of lost that. You're working. What exactly are you consulting them with? Cost for, charging, or whether or not they have some funds available? How are they involved?
They're involved regarding the power requirements. We'd definitely probably have to up the power meter, the transformer, to our facility to be able to handle these 10 chargers. Again, we're working, Ray, as kind of the DC charger, the fast charge versus the longer trickle charges, and see what that will take as well. The EPA actually likes to have a letter from the Idaho Power as well, because that has caused some problems. Even a neighboring district wasn't in Idaho Power's district, but their power company said, nope, we can't even give you that much power, and that shut that down.
So,
And we haven't
Uh,
heard.
we,
And
no,
so,
go ahead.
yeah, and, you know, as far as the fast charge versus the 240 volt, you know, based upon my research and based upon the, you know, the range of our routes, you said basically the longest route is 60 miles. I think most of these, the buses we're looking at probably have a 120-mile range.
Yep.
And charging at 240 is way, way, way less expensive as far as infrastructure and cost than going with high voltage charging. But I'm just, you know, and based upon my research in this area, I think we could really just go with the 240. But I mean, is there money available if you implement a high voltage DC fast charging, or is that part of the discussion?
So the grant will cover some of that infrastructure. I haven't got into the amount of that. And Ray, you're exactly right. In discussions, out of the 10 buses, we were thinking maybe 3 DC fast chargers, and then 7 would be the 240s. And we could maybe go 2 and 8, you know, for example, just in case we needed a fast charge, we thought, okay, we better have at least 1 or 2 of those.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess, again, you know, we haven't really had a chance to chat much about this, but, you know, and again, based on my preliminary research, I really think that you know, where we're having a real problem building the charging infrastructure across the country for just automobiles is the DC high voltage fast charging. And that is a considerable infrastructure cost, and you know, that's what puts a drain on the power grid. If you're just doing 240 like I'm doing here at home, it's really not an issue. And again, you know, if you look at your longest route, so I think, you know, you know, this isn't just background information for me. We can just go ahead and approve your letter so you can get this going.
Yep.
But you know, I mean, if we get some money out of it, you know, it probably wouldn't hurt to have some DC fast charging, or if we could divert those funds, well, I guess we probably couldn't. But I'm pretty darn sure that just the alternating current 240 volt charging would work based upon the length of our routes and what I've been able to, the research I've conducted on,
Sure.
you know, how fast the charging system is on each of these vehicles. The charging system for each of the electric vehicles it's actually built into the vehicle itself, and so they determine you know, how many amperes and what kind of voltage they can take. But based on my research, you probably get a mile every 2 minutes. And so if you've got a maximum, you know, if you've got a 60-mile route and you have a 120-mile range, you know, you're going to get, in an hour, you're going to get 30 miles back with just 240-volt alternating current charging. But anyway, that's, you know, thank you. I just want some more preliminary information from what you've learned there. And so, yeah, no, this is good. A minimum of 10. Usually what do we replace, like 3 buses a year?
You know, sometimes it's even 5 or 6. So, I mean, it's within reason, and obviously we have, you know, dollars there. So, because we will have to pay for some of these buses. The grant doesn't cover it in full, and so that's the delta that I mean, that's the difference that we need to try to kind of establish there.
Yeah.
At least,
So, you know, again, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please finish your thought.
Nope, go ahead. That's all I was just going to say was just the, you know, the cost and you know, there's a couple of things that we just need to still identify. But again, it's a moot point if we don't get the grant. So. Right,
and as we discussed, there's probably, I would say, a very good likelihood, if not an excellent likelihood, that we're not going to get the grant, given the priorities they're giving to tribal school districts and you know, cities with air pollution problems and low-income school districts. I don't know how well we're gonna fare with that. I think you know, I would be pleasantly surprised if we get it, but I think the odds are we probably won't. But you know, you don't ask, you don't get. So we've got nothing to lose by submitting an application.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, good. Thank you. I didn't mean to delay things, but I enjoy getting that additional information from you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Ray. So is everybody ready for the motion?
Mm-hmm.
I would entertain a motion to approve the 2024-2025 bus, AV grant application. Is there a motion?
I motion that we approve the grant application for the EV buses.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passed. Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Next on the agenda is the superintendent's.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan.
Oh, sorry about that, Ray.
I
Next,
just want to thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, thank you.
oh, yes, thank you. Next on the agenda is the superintendent's report, which will be presented by Douglas Howell. He'll be reporting on the board calendar, policy drafts for the 2024-2025 school year and proposed ISBA resolutions.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. First up is the calendar, and as you can see, we've got a couple PV Tech OAC meetings coming up, and then community prevention on the 13th of August, if you'd like to attend, RSVP to Renee. Then on the 14th, we have another OAC meeting, as well as a student reinstatement hearings, not so much a reinstatement, but a regular student hearing. Right now, it looks like just one for that late afternoon on the 14th, and then the regular board meeting on the 20th, and then again, an open invitation for any of the meetings that you saw on the back-to-school calendar, just to let us know maybe in advance so that we don't have more than 2 of you in one place at one time.
I don't know if it's a huge issue. I was going to ask you if you wanted to maybe notice back-to-school events, period. Any board members may attend.
Let's just see what the interest is, and
Okay.
then we could just do a blanket if we need to.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Next up for you will be the policy drafts. These are certainly drafts in they would need to be refined for sure, but I think we have about 10 or 11 of them. And we could go through them. If you have some thoughts or questions right now, you could have a little more time to digest them. And then what we are proposing is, and as we've talked to our legal counsel, Amy White, she said even though there's a July 1st statute requirement, as long as we are in the process of adopting these and making our changes, and we have some drafts, some preliminary information provided to the board, then we feel comfortable in pulling these or bringing these forward into August, because all of our staff will be back, and then they can have a look at the first read as we put them out for public input. And then 2, as the board looks to adopt these in September, then those can be rolled right into essentially that first month of back to school. And instead of being overwhelmed with so many of the other things that we are doing in August, it gives them a chance to kind of get settled in, and then we can educate them on the details of each one of these policies. So, Madam Chair, if you'd like, we can discuss these if you have some questions right now. All the recommendations are written in here, and I appreciate greatly Ms. Johnson's time and effort to cross-reference these with all of the statutes. Again, a reminder that all of these revisions are based upon statutory language, and so that's where we're at in these recommendations. Again, as you look through the ISBA model policies, some of that we could use into our existing policies. I don't know what color to call it. I'm going to call it tangerine. It may be yellow. It's not true yellow to me, but those are typically areas that we will need to fill in with times, or limitations of time or deadlines and that sort of thing. So at your pleasure, if you'd like to go through these individually tonight, if you want to have a little more time to review them. I think we are pretty familiar with a majority of these as, again, they were presented through the legislature, but just what it looks like on paper, that's where we'll probably need to spend some time over the next month preparing these for you based upon your suggestions.
Has everybody had a chance to thoroughly read all of these and the cross-referencing and everything?
I have not.
I've read them, but not, when you say cross-referencing.
Yeah,
Well, the way they're cross-referenced with the law and our
Oh.
existing policy and,
Yeah, I've
because
read
you're
them.
kind of have to see
Yeah.
both.
I'm-
What I'm wondering is, it's a lot of pages and I have read through, but I've only had a chance to skim because I didn't have time. So, but I just really appreciate your leadership in bringing these to us and all that work. That's an amazing, I don't even know how many hours that would have taken. But that's a lot of work. But that said, I didn't have a chance to probably really give it as much time as I wanted to. But so what I was wondering is if you guys wanted to do, we canceled
work
our
session.
board work session last month and this month. So I'm wondering if we want to go ahead and do a work session at the end of the month of July, since you need that time to draft the policy, or if we want to do it beginning of August. Just reinstate one of the work sessions, whether it's July or whether it's August.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me when. I'm just
I was gonna
wondering
say
if
maybe
you need
August would be
time.
preferable.
Yeah,
but
then that
first
August is
week?
also
jogged a memory for, that's not on the calendar.
ISBA board training?
Yes,
Okay,
If we, that's on the first, right?
yes,
Yes.
it is.
So
I
if
think the
we
invite
did
got
it,
sent out and maybe not copied to the board calendar, so.
Oh, okay.
so we have
All
that
right.
on the first, so would we want to, I don't think we can combine it. I mean.
No, I don't
Right.
think so.
So
I
maybe
think
the
that'd be a lot
following
of time for
Tuesday?
you, a big commitment.
Yeah, maybe the following Tuesday or Wednesday, that first week. Would that be a good timing for you to be able to
I think
have
we
our
might have to look
input?
at the back-to-school calendar and just make sure there's no conflicts.
That's what I was thinking,
with
too.
the boardroom or our time
It's new teacher orientation
here.
here.
Okay.
Until about 3:34.
So we have new teacher until about, new teacher orientation, I just, for the sake of Ray, since he probably can't hear you. Amy said there's new teacher orientation until probably 3:30 or 4, so if we went 4:30
Which
or
day?
5, then we probably would be able to do it any day, right? Or,
What are you talking about?
The 6th through the 8th is what I'm.
I guess if we're looking at the first week of August,
Like, what, is that the 8th? Is that?
Ray, we're talking about going over the new board policy stuff together.
Yeah, yeah,
Proposed
and I'm just
revision.
wondering what dates you're talking
Oh.
about,
So
to do it.
Do it in
Tuesday the
Wednesday?
6th, is that?
Oh, yeah, the 6th would
Correct.
be the
I
Tuesday.
think it's a lot. We can split it up. I don't really have a strong opinion of.
Well, you know, I guess we've got a question right now. The board training is what, August 1?
Yes.
And then how long is that?
Is it 2 to 5 or?
I
3
think
to
it's
6?
2.5 to 3 hours.
Yes, I think we scheduled 3 hours, Mr. Na.
And it's going to be located where?
That will
Here.
be here.
Here at the Ed Center.
Okay, and so then, yeah, I think that'll work out for me, but I'm gonna have to be able to elevate my foot. And so, yeah, there'll be no
We
problem
can make
with that.
arrangements for that.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. That would
Okay,
be,
so, I just, let me mark this down on my calendar, because I've, my process of recuperation here has been updated several times as I'm meeting with my physicians. So, Thursday, August 1, what time was that again?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock to 5?
Yes.
2 to 5 p.m., and that's the school board training, okay. And then we're talking about work session maybe on the 6th, for the policies here.
Yeah, we can do 5, 6,
yeah,
7.
Tuesday or Wednesday. Let me see.
Wednesday or Thursday would be better for me. I have an afternoon on Tuesday, so.
Let me see. I can't do Thursday. I can definitely do Wednesday, and that's the 7th. Are you
Yeah.
talking about the 7th? Oh. Let me look really quick. Sorry.
Or Friday the 9th. Do you have stuff going on back to school on the 9th?
The elementary group will be over at Hawthorne, but the boardroom will be open on the 9th. For me.
I could do
don't
the
know if
9th
anything
easier
else-
than the Wednesday.
What's that?
I could do the 9th easier than the Wednesday.
What if we did the 9th?
I'm good.
The ninth, okay, let me look at the ninth really quick.
I'm speaking for me too.
Oh, actually, the ninth is really not good for
Oh,
me,
oh, dang it.
like, all day.
Okay,
Yeah, all
so maybe
day.
we'll just, I'll put an email out
Yeah.
there
Yeah,
with a couple of
let's-
dates
yeah,
and
that
options
Yeah,
and see
yeah.
what rooms are available and when and what the board's availability is.
Okay,
Okay, can I ask real quick on that?
absolutely.
I made it like halfway through this 50-page one. Can you clarify the colors for me again?
Renee, help us out.
Yeah, okay, so
Um,
the green edition, those are the new additions, the proposed language.
Okay.
The red strikeouts are the language that they're eliminating from their existing policy. And then those orangish yellow additions are the optional pieces or things that need to be customized to our district.
Okay,
Filled
that's
in.
what I needed.
There you go.
Thank you.
And when you say green, is it adding it to our existing policy or
No.
to their existing?
To theirs.
That's
A
what I
lot of school districts just flat out adopt the ISBA model policy manual. We had kind of our policy manual already fully developed when they came out with this. So we've just taken their additions and kind of modified ours using theirs. So these would need to be added, their additions or deletions would have to be addressed in our existing policy.
And so when you say, when it's the green, it's, like you said, it's adding to their policy, but all the not green is not necessarily included in our
No,
policy
no.
currently.
No.
Well,
So it becomes really confusing.
based upon my looking over, for example, let's see here, policy number 2530. They make a reference, I think, to policy 6405, and we don't have a policy 6405.
So
We
I-
do, it's just a different policy completely.
Oh, okay, so it's got a different number. What number is that, do you know?
No, I haven't cross-referenced theirs to ours. I did,
It's a different one of their policy.
Yes,
And so
absolutely.
He was saying we don't have a policy. Is that what you were saying? Ray?
yeah, he was saying that,
That
but we
we
actually
don't?
do have a 6405. It just is a completely different policy than ISBA's 6405.
So it's
Okay.
ISBA.
So that would be
64.
one more step.
Yeah, just to
that
clarify on my
we would
end,
need
you know,
to
again,
do For you
I
to
looked,
reference.
I looked at the policy, our active policies, you know,
Yes.
we have them all listed. And, you know, they're 1,000 through 8,000. And so I just, you know, looked under 6,000, which is instruction in ours, and I didn't see a 6405. But
Oh.
yeah, you're saying we have a policy, it just doesn't have that number, and it might be under a different heading.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
will say on the summary that I kind of put together, where we do have existing policies, I listed our policy numbers. And those are what we would have to update. And then if we did not have an existing policy, I just listed the Idaho Code or ISBA's policy number. And you guys could consider adopting a policy or just adding to different.
Yeah, and
policies
that's
that
the
we
part
have.
that I haven't had a chance to do,
Right.
is when it's referring to our existing policy.
Right.
I haven't had a chance to read our existing,
Crosswalk.
yeah,
Yeah,
because then you
yeah.
have to look at both and figure out how you would combine it, because you don't need to necessarily add all of the language if we already have part of the language.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm looking at policy 2530, which makes the reference to 6405, and so you're saying somewhere in there you have our policy number?
Just on the memo that goes through the policy recommendations or just information, really.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, there's one of them is 49 pages, and the other is 43. One's under well, recommended by law or whatever. I forget what the title is up the head.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, 1140. Yeah, I mean, basically, they're covered in both of the documents based upon what I saw. But okay, good. No, I'll again, thank you for all the hard work. I mean, I can see here that the legal references are there. Idaho Code references are here. For example, I'm looking at the 2530 and Idaho Code on obscene materials definitions, and an Idaho Code on Children's School and Library Protection Act. Then there's also links to the American Library Association, the Idaho Commission for Libraries. Okay, here we are. I see, we've got 24, 25. These are all ours, cross-references,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, I'm just
All of
reading
those
that
legal
too.
references are ISBAs, which we would probably incorporate into our policies if they aren't already there. Some of those legal references are in our policies currently, and then other spots where the laws have changed, they've added to, so we would do the same.
Yeah, but under the cross-references, are those ISBA policies or are our policies?
If you're looking at the ISBA model policies, those are their cross-references, so we would have to look at cross-referencing our own.
Okay. Because, you know, basically what I'm seeing here is that almost all of them are actually ISBA model policies.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah,
what thought.
they all are. I haven't included any of ours yet because I was just looking at which pieces of ISBA model policy that we wanted to incorporate into ours. But yeah, being that a lot of our policies are not exactly the same language, we would look at if that language existed already, how we want to modify ours or add to using ISBA model policies. So
Yeah, well, once again, I just want to, agree with what Deanna said and just want to compliment you on the obvious large amount of work you put into this. And I appreciate that. I guess the only thing I would add is that, you know, if we're going to move this back to August, the second week of August and do it on a work session, if you could, in addition to all the great work you've done already, if you could, even though they're basically ISBA policies, if you could add our actual policies in there, and so that we can actually refer to ours as well. That would be nice. The legal
absolutely. I think
Idaho Code, are there and the cross references to theirs, but if we could just add cross reference to SD 25 policies, that would really help a lot.
yes, and I think kind of that was the direction I was wanting to see what the board wants to do. Do you want me to just have a side-by-side, or do you want me to actually draft some of the revisions as proposed, or what do we want to do there?
And show it like with the
And show it
red
like
and
in
the-
our
and the
policy with the
green?
strikeout or additions. How do we want to move forward with that?
Just for the new ones.
Yeah.
I-
And
Well,
existing revisions as well. Yeah.
Existing ones?
Yeah, there are an awful lot of new ones here. For example, let me just count up here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And then
Side by
if we-
side.
Side by
Yeah.
side, and then
Okay.
if we review them,
I like that.
Okay.
then you don't have.
I just want, I'm fine with either way.
Okay, so then we would just look at theirs and then during that work session, kind of hash out what we want to add to for first reading. Okay. Okay.
And I do want to just throw out there, just when you're looking at dates, really the 7th through the 14th isn't really good for me, because I have company coming that week. So I'm okay with the 2nd, the 5th, the 6th, or the end of July, like the 29th, 30th, 31st. I'm okay with any of that. Basically anything but that week.
7th through the 14th.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, if that's.
If the other board members will let us know, then we can compile it and
Oh,
get
and the
you
25th and 26th, but, you don't need to know every single day, but.
some potential dates.
But yeah, just to let you know that
Okay.
that would be nice if we could.
So Renee, one final question here then. So then was there a consensus of, that we were going to show our policy side to side with the model ISBA policy?
Correct.
Or, okay, good. So that's great, because we've already got all the ISBA policies. And then if you can determine which ones of ours exist and reference them and put them side to side, then that'll make things a lot easier.
Okay, we'll do.
That is really, that would be so nice, thank you. Because I was gonna look all of ours
Right.
up and I'm like, that is gonna take me a really long time.
Thank you, Renee, thank you.
Thank you, Renee.
Okay,
That's a lot.
okay. So, we'll just do via email, figure out the date that we wanna, get together. And that's the only other thing, is that right?
Proposed ISBA.
Oh, I'm sorry, the next
that was-
thing
Yeah, the
is
resolution.
the-
So no action on this.
So-
Right. Just
Right.
direction to side-by-side work session.
Right, yeah, it wasn't on there for
Okay.
action, but
Nope.
this one is. So the ISBA resolutions.
Okay, there are 3 for you based upon our previous discussions of the other 2 board meetings that we've had. I was able to provide some input to Amy White, and then we worked these back and forth a couple times. And you can see in front of you 3 resolutions that we talked about. These will, whichever way you decide to move forward with any of them, we need to just have these submitted by the end of July. And that's why for tonight's board meeting, we have them for action. So first up is proposed, I don't know what order you have them in, the way I printed them, I guess, is board member recruitment, retention, and compensation. And you can see the various whereases and then how it leads to therefore be it resolved. And so essentially, some of the items that we had talked about with Amy, or I had, I guess, compensation for all out-of-pocket costs, that might be considered. School employee benefits and I mentioned this in a previous discussion, if you were interested in that in regard to possibly insurance coverage. And then the third one that as we looked at various districts across the nation, there was a few that had also included a monthly stipend. And so those are the elements upon which all of this other background information is based. It leads to, looking at the possibility of these items. I know that Jim had included in his remarks at the beginning that this one maybe not so much in favor of, but he's going to look at it.
The out-of-pocket expenses, in looking at the law, I think that you can do that.
It is already included.
It's just the only thing that we would have to do is change our policy.
Yes.
Because that's already within the law.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'll just say I'm not in favor of the benefits or stipends.
So the only reason I brought this up is because we are one of the few states that do not provide some sort of benefit. And on top of that, we're one of the few states that we are the only elected official that doesn't receive some sort of compensation, whether it be a stipend or retirement or health benefits. I think one of the things, as I did some research on this, is that, there's only 5 of us, many of whom have ended up being retirees. Some of us now have young children, and the time commitment that is required, it is so much more than I had ever imagined. Get ready, Megan. But I love it. I absolutely love the work. So this isn't about me patting my pocket. But I'm not going to be here forever. I think if we want to continue to build a varied
Yeah, we did get disconnected.
group
I'm gonna just set you up
of
real quick for
candidates,
this last
that
piece.
making it something that has, and I know Jim made some comment in his remarks about, now, of course, I can't remember. This isn't about padding our pockets, but I do think it's about enticing other people who would have the ability to serve if they had, I just don't want to discourage people from serving because it is a huge commitment. I think we've all recognized that, at least I have personally. And I think if we want to continue to make sure that we have a wide breadth of representation. The other thing I want to add is that this isn't about just Pocatello. This is about statewide. There are smaller districts, and this will kind of lead into the next resolution, I don't know if it's the next one, about opening up the ability for spouses to teach within the district. Because I think, again, this isn't just about us. This is proposing to ISBA to open it up statewide. There are things that we need to do in our own state to not be so limiting. It keeps it in local control, so even if this were to pass, doesn't mean it would apply to us. Doesn't mean we have to vote to accept it. But I think it helps the entire state in how we do recruitment in boards and as well, make sure that we have some of the best teachers we can. I mean, I sit here and think if my husband was a welding teacher, boy, wouldn't you just drop everything to get a good welding teacher? But based on the current policies, he couldn't do it. And he's not, so that's not an issue. But that's the kind of thing that this is very limiting. And I think Jim made the comment that, if my daughter was a teacher and wanted to work in the district, there would be no issue. And while that doesn't, it does benefit me because it's my daughter and I want her to be successful and have a decent career and work for a great district. So I think, again, this is not just about a single focus of our district, it's about all districts throughout the state of Idaho.
So just, I don't know if you knew this, but the law says that a spouse cannot, unless you're in a small district where they do struggle to fill.
Right, and that's the proposal, is that we would change the law.
And so, exactly.
Right.
And so just to make everybody aware of the fact that the consideration of when there is need is in the law already, but the law is there for, I think, for a very good reason. Yeah, I mean, it could potentially be spouses of teachers. I mean, I don't know if it would be, but it could be, because a lot of people don't come out to vote, but teachers do, and they could, vote all the spouses in. I'm not saying they would, I'm just saying that.
I don't see how that's, I don't understand what you're saying.
Anyway.
So 5 votes.
Ray was just, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I was going to say, sorry, I got disconnected when Heather started to speak. And so I just got reconnected and just heard the last part about what you said, Heather, about looking at things from the whole state perspective. But I think that Deanna makes a good point. Based upon what I read in the law, there are exceptions made for small school districts. And they're trying to, you make a good point. Let's say we need a CTE teacher, we need a welding instructor or something. But I think the current state law does make provisions for that. And
Does
so I think
Not-
right
I
now,
don't know that it does.
For small districts.
Yeah,
Only
it's
for small-
1,500.
For
and
those
that's-
in need where they can't fill positions.
Right,
we-
but there's no exception for like specialty positions
Not
or
specialty.
Right.
hard to fill.
So
Yeah.
that welding position,
Right.
and also you're talking about a small district of 1,500. I mean, think of the vast number of schools that, yeah, we're 4th, 5th largest. I mean, what
Yeah.
about the vast number of schools that are between us and those 1,500? I think with the demand and it's such a small percentage. I mean, and I think it was also written here that it excludes administrative. When have we ever voted raises and singled out certain teachers? I mean, it's not meant to be, I think it's just such a small percentage, but yet the benefit to the districts that are looking to fill hard-to-fill positions or needing highly qualified teachers. I mean, many of us that are sitting here have backgrounds in education or have family members that were in education. And so it leads to the fact that it's not entirely impossible that one of our spouses are going to be in education because we're invested in education. I don't think it has anything to do with, again, padding one's pocket, but it's about getting the best candidates you can for a community and for a school system. It's not meant to fill the superintendent role or an administrative role or where there would be huge policy. And of course, I think there would be, if there was a disciplinary action that the board member would recuse themselves from something like that. But I just think the implications are so small as far as being, I think the benefits far outweigh whatever impropriety might be suggested.
I want to piggyback on Heather because I feel like the retention and compensation part, you're not going to make enough money that's like your side gig. It's just a benefit. And part of the wording was like they could get medical benefits, and I felt like that could be really helpful to some people and keep them in retention in that position. Like, we're all doing it for free, and we know that. So it's not because we want anything, but I'm looking at other districts, future board members, like, would that help get educated, well-versed people more interested if there was a benefit of some sort?
Right. I mean, it's more of a.
So you're talking about the first resolution,
the
not
first one.
not
We
the
kind
second
of
one.
blended two of them.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
I mean,
all right.
They're somewhat
It's good
related.
discussion,
They
good
are
discussion.
somewhat related. At least my
Absolutely.
reasoning
Yeah.
is very
And-
much related.
And on the employment of trustee spouses, I hesitate to say this out loud, but as a former teacher for years, I don't feel like I had much interaction with board members that it would be a conflict of interest, I knew my superintendent, I knew my principals. I wasn't, I don't feel like there would be a conflict of interest being in that other position before. I can't see that being a
You mean
problem.
concurrently, so we're both certified teachers, and so we can't get a job in this district.
Right.
But our spouses in our same household, so it changes.
The only
like-
conflict of interest I could see would be negotiations maybe on financial.
We are part of
But
them
that's
anyway.
it. Yeah.
We
are part of them
we approve them all.
That's-
But also, I guess I would say also with hiring, it's hard when the board hires the superintendent and then okays other positions, all the directors' positions. It would then be hard for a director to say, well, I don't want to hire your spouse. I mean, it does create a different situation. So like if my spouse was working at a school, everybody would know that his wife was on the school board. And they'd come to him tell her this, it just changes things when you're actually working. Now Jim's daughter is a teacher, and she probably gets some of that, but she's not in the same household as Jim. It's a little bit, so if they disagree and Jim says, no, I'm not gonna do that, they're not gonna.
And
I mean,
I
it's a
do
different.
see your point.
It's a
It would be a
different household.
conversation.
Yeah, I do see
you
your
know,
points, but
So,
Jim makes
I
a
still feel
lot
like
of
the benefits would
conversations.
outweigh the cons on it.
I mean, Jim talks all the time about comments from his daughter, and that things do get discussed. But I think it
Yeah.
also pushes to the professionalism that we are adhered to. We all adhere to a code of ethics as a board member, that we don't discuss confidential things. And, that's a whole nother discussion if things are being discussed with a spouse that's an employee. I mean, that's, like I said.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
ethics
That's not what I'm saying. Ray, did you have any other further comments on this?
Well, let's see here. I mean, I'm looking at it now. So right now, the present student enrollment is 1,200, and then we're talking only about spouses.
1,200? 12,000.
Spouse, right?
12,000.
The enrollment is 12,000 students, not 1,200.
So as far as the spouse goes, Ray, districts with 1,500 students or less,
Right.
they may employ spouses
Yeah.
of board members
Because
in
there's just-
certified positions.
Yeah. there's-
No,
there's
yeah,
a- no.
sorry, I must be confused because I'm looking right at the proposed resolution, and it said here where the school had a prior fall student enrollment population of 1,200.
Oh,
And
is it 200? I apologize. I thought it was 1,500.
I thought it was 1,500 too. It must be 12.
That's even smaller.
Yeah,
Well, that's what it says. I'm looking at the proposal right now,
Okay,
and so it's 1,200.
yeah, it is 1,200 in the first paragraph there.
Right,
I would
and-
take Amy's word over mine
Yeah.
And,
on a
Great.
legal, discussion.
okay, and then we're talking about spouses only, a spouse.
Right, not children or other, not immediate family members. It can be children, it can be parents, it can be anything like that. It just can't be a spouse.
Yeah. Well, I think both sides make good points. I guess what Jim said he was for it. I'm looking at him right now.
So one other thing I'd like to say too is that the idea of a school board, even though we are both teachers, certified teachers, so, we kind of have that perspective, but at the same time, not that, I guess, I would just say conflict of interest. But I think the idea of a school board is to represent the school, the community at large. We have a lot of ways of representing the teachers. I mean, we have 2 teachers and a father of a teacher, and our children all have teachers. I mean, we have a lot of ways to represent the teachers, but this isn't a representative board of teachers. It's representative of the community at large. So if we only have 5 people, and then, say 3 of them are spouses of teachers, does that adequately represent the community at large? Or does it not? And teachers and the education, vote. And they can easily get 3 members on the board, of spouses, I would say easily. So it's not a far-fetched possibility to have that, and then is the whole purpose of the board really to represent the public, because we're supposed to be giving a perspective of, a different perspective. Although we have the education perspective too, a lot of us.
I think that contradicts what you're saying, though. I mean, because all 5 of us have some connection to education.
Everybody does.
That's why we,
In the United States, everybody does.
but that's why we were elected, because that was part of the platform that you ran on, was your experience as an educator, Ray, I can't remember, you'll forgive me, but I think you came from a board
Director.
previously.
I was a district level administrator for
Yeah,
3 school
yeah,
districts.
so I
technology
think
administrator.
that
But not
doesn't,
current.
but that didn't, I guess I don't understand
Wasn't it
how,
hindrance, is that what
a
you?
hindrance, exactly. I mean,
Yep,
because
all I
that's
want to
part
say
of
is that
what
I want it
our-
to be representative
Right,
of the entire community. You know, what do we have, 75,000? And there's only 5 of us.
right. Which
So,
also
you know, I
tells me
mean, you
that
have to,
there's no one of us that would have a spouse that would have that kind of influence in this community to have, I mean, and to be honest, it has little to do with what's happening on the board level. I'm more interested in if we have qualified teachers that can bring that level of expertise. And, you know, Brenda even, we've acknowledged, I mean, if we had an expert, if one of our spouses was a welding teacher, and the fact that the only thing that would keep them from being hired is because they were Megan's spouse, I think that's an arbitrary line in the sand that seems a little outdated, in my opinion, right now. Given,
I think you make a real good point. I guess what I'm concerned about, though, it says the employment of a spouse. So we're talking about teachers, but I mean, there could be a situation where somebody runs a business and, let's say he fixes buses or whatever. And there might be a motivation for him to get he couldn't be elected to the board, right? Because you can't be elected to the board and have any fiduciary interest in the school district. But somebody says, well, I get my wife elected to the board, and now, she has a vote to get the contract so that I can do all the maintenance for the buses. So you make an excellent point about teachers, especially career technical education people. But I think part of the reason why
but Ray, I'm going to stop you there for a second, because there are so many checks and balances that prohibit. I've served on multiple nonprofit boards, and there are so many checks and balances that would preclude that from happening. That also should not be a concern.
Oh, okay. So what checks and balances are available?
Well, I mean, there's the whole bidding process. I mean, there's
Levels
it's-
of administration.
we
or
are not in
supervision.
that kind of a situation where that would ever be, certainly would be caught well in advance if it ever, any kind of that impropriety. This is strictly about getting the best candidate in the community and to draw some arbitrary line because they are, I mean, I guess maybe there's nefarious other people later on, but I think we're building this up to be more than, I mean, we are
No,
not
I'm
involved
just
in
asking,
teacher hiring.
yeah, no, I'm
I've
just
never met a
asking-
teacher that's applied for a
we
job.
we
I
are the
don't-
ones that
But
do
I didn't
approve
know
all hiring.
specifically, actually,
We
that's the
approve.
district.
We approve all the hiring.
We approve it at a meeting, but
And-
we don't actually get a say in
I
who
don't,
gets.
we're
the-
We
not
don't
interviewing,
no,
we're
we don't-
not
we don't
the
do
one
the
looking
management.
at resumes. I haven't seen a single teacher resume. Administration, actually, we don't even see that. Doug's the only one that we have that kind of hiring and firing authority. We can't fire any teacher. That's got to go through a whole list of other people before it would ever come before us.
No, I was just asking a question. So, rather than making a point, my question would be, then, for a small school district or whatever, there are provisions to prevent this kind of nepotism involving a business, somebody being employed for his business to serve the school district. Is that correct? Am I correct in that?
Yes. Yes, there is.
Okay.
And that's provided in the law already for the very small districts. I could even see making a resolution that a CTE teacher could be hired if it was a spouse. Even just that, because that's the only need we actually have in the district that we don't, that
But
is
again,
very
this
difficult.
is not just about our district, right? This is
Right,
being proposed for the entire state.
I understand that.
So while we may not have the need for it, there are certainly other states or
And-
other school districts.
Yeah, and I believe the wording even includes classified, like, not just certified, right?
It's everybody.
Yeah.
Says,
Right now, they're,
It
yeah.
includes that. It doesn't exclude anybody. It's
I mean,
everybody.
Brenda, I'd be curious, as the HR director, if you had
Will you come to the
a
microphone?
comment or an opinion on this, or would you rather not?
Would you feel any differently if there were, so Brenda, let's put you on the
Would you be
spot.
uncomfortable not hiring or hiring? I mean,
If-
it's purely hypothetical.
So if there were 2 people for one position, would you be swayed at all in the least?
Absolutely not. I
If
mean,
one of us-
I look at
Professional.
what Megan was
And I
saying as
think
a
that you
teacher,
are.
and I was trying to think about my career, and as a teacher before I moved, on to being a principal or any of those things. And so maybe that would look a little different, but, and of course, not anything, but I was so busy thinking about my classroom and my school, I didn't really have a lot of interaction with the board either, unless, to be honest with you, unless it came to some sort of a salary, issue, and it became this issue with more of a whole group of people, like the union or something like that, where they would ask us to make a statement or those things. Those would be the only times that
Yeah,
would
in
be
the
an
pa-
issue.
Yeah, in the past, that's really been what
The
it's
only
been
time
like.
that you kind of had that.
Now, there is a lot more interaction, I feel like, in the last 5 years with school boards,
With teachers?
Yep.
Well, I just look at it from a HR standpoint when, the applications come in, and right there are so many guidelines that you have to, everybody has to follow all the same strategic, teams are going to be formed by I'll be honest, teams are going to be formed by the schools to pick that candidate. They may not even, notice that they're a spouse, and just would look at those as who's best qualified. And I think that that's one thing that we need to really look at, is that, trusting that our building principals and those types of situations, that they're going to have a team in their school that's going to pick the best qualified to be a math teacher or to be a welder, or you know what I mean? Any of those, I was thinking of the ones we had, open science, ELA, that
Special
we're,
education.
special education, that's a big one, that we're going to look at the people who have the most positive impact on our learners based on their credentials.
Yes, I
Not
would
based on
definitely
anything else.
trust you.
So, thanks.
So I
Thank
guess
you.
the one other piece of it is that it's the spouse that would then have to realize that their career path might be stunted within the district because they couldn't become a principal. I mean,
Right.
that would have
Yeah.
to be understood. But I agree. I think it's more about if they are a very qualified, I think being the spouse of a board member is more or less negligible.
So is there any other
So
discussion?
the other resolution, Madam Chair, if I
Oh,
may.
one more,
Yeah,
sorry.
and then you could have, call for a vote and do more discussion if you'd like, but
Okay.
maybe just to touch on that last one.
Okay.
And that is in regard to the
The
CTE, just to open discussions about staffing. And so you can see again in the body of the resolution, it gives various reasons. And certainly for us, it is opening a brand-new career technical education center. And if we could have the legislature, by way of ISBA, place an importance on hiring CTE teachers and providing more of an avenue for financial structure to do that, that would, I think, benefit everyone across the state.
Yes, and I appreciate that, I would, I think that's.
So this isn't asking anything specific other than asking them to
Use
come up
Rhonda's
with
funds.
something.
Yes,
Come up
exactly.
with a solution
Be able to
use.
use Rhonda's funds for hiring, because currently Rhonda uses her funds for sewing machines, welders, masks, all the
Saying that
building,
this is-
everything else.
It's not just, you're just asking for
Yeah,
funding,
to really-
whether it's from those funds
Not
or
funding.
others.
It's not
Open the
asking for funding.
discussion to
Actually, it
look
is.
at possible funding sources.
Oh, yeah.
So
oh,
I think
yeah.
originally what
It,
in
the
my-
funding,
All
the specific
available
one,
options
the
for
specific
additional
one that
funding.
you're talking about, though, is Rhonda's funding, correct?
Right, so, we'll let them have that discussion, because as I mentioned in a previous meeting, I think there was some concern on behalf of Clay Long, who is the director of CTE across the
Oh.
state, that, what percentage of it is, are you looking to grab from supplies and equipment?
Right.
And that was Jim's concern.
And
as
that was
well.
my concern as well.
I'm sorry, Doug, I didn't really hear everything you had to say there. Could you, could you speak into the microphone more?
I'm right there, Ray, I can't get in closer unless I swallow it, but.
Oh, okay, I guess maybe it was the background noise. It was the background.
So, what I was saying is that it just opens the discussion to look at financial possibilities from the state, because the state, the legislators have been very gracious in providing money for CTE programs, which would include supplies and equipment. But the difficulty or the challenge that we have in our district, and I gotta think it's consistent across the state, is the staffing. And so we need to be able to have a funding source that provides us money to hire staffing outside of our regular units that we are allocated by the state through our attendance, essentially, and enrollment via attendance. So that's what we're asking for, is that we just basically open that discussion. So it does not pinpoint any percentage of existing budgets or anything of that
Oh,
nature.
so that's changed since our last meeting, because I thought it was really kind of directed at being
That's
able to.
where I originally saw it,
Right.
but, yeah.
But that's changed now, after talking to
Yes.
Mr. Long.
And also Rhonda, and
Okay.
then Amy White's feelers across the state in the various
Oh, okay.
districts that she works with.
So that shifted. I get
Yeah,
that.
and I
Okay.
think this would have a better opportunity to get through the governing body. If you'll
Mhm.
remember, we just present these as proposals.
Yeah.
And then the Governmental Affairs Committee will narrow it down to the ones that are brought before the ISBA body in
Mhm.
November.
I think this is a great one.
So that's where we're at. Those are the three for tonight.
Okay, so then we're basically looking for additional funding, and Rhonda's on board with it, and,
Yes, funding for staffing outside of the unit allocation that we receive for our district.
oh, okay, great.
Is there anything else, any other discussion or comment before we do a
Yes.
motion?
The only other
Uh,
discussion
another
I would
question
say
here.
is that even though, I mean, regardless of how we vote, yay or nay on any of these, it's still gonna be up to the ISBA Governance Committee.
Yeah.
So there's no, we're not committing ourselves. I mean,
Right.
it's not our decision whether these will be brought forward anyway.
I fully understand that. Do you guys understand that as well? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You
Any,
have something.
oh, Ray, I'm sorry. I think you started to say something.
Yeah, no, I was just looking over to here too, about the employment of spouses, and it also mentions about classified as well as certified people, and skilled maintenance personnel, et cetera, probably paraprofessionals working with special education, et cetera. So am I correct in that?
Yes.
Okay,
There-
good. No, that clarifies that for me. That makes it much more amenable to me, especially if you say there are provisions to prevent any kind of nepotism on a large business scale.
Right.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, so are we ready for a motion? All right,
We're going
so.
to
oh,
each one individually, right?
Yeah, we'll split,
Okay.
we'll split it. So I would entertain a motion to adopt, I should have kept my thing up.
Board recruitments first. retention.
What one is it?
Board recruitment.
Okay,
retention,
so number
compensation.
one is the board, I would entertain a motion to adopt the ISB resolution number one, which has to do with recruitment and spouses,
The recruitment is the compensation for trustees.
the compensation of trustees.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the submission of the proposed resolution for board recruitment and retention and compensation.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
So I'm gonna say one last thing. As part of the, is again, it's still local control. Just because we put this out there doesn't mean we have to do anything with it. It means it just gives the ability for those kind of considerations to come forward. There you go.
And any other discussion? So
I'll
all,
second it, though.
second it, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye.
Aye.
And then Jim via letter opposed.
I did tell him, that his vote wouldn't count tonight, just
Okay,
his
so
input,
that
so,
motion failed.
yeah.
Okay, all right, so that motion failed. I would entertain a motion to adopt the proposed ISBA Resolution 2, which refers to the CTE funding? Is that, I thought that was
In
the
the order. You
spouses.
can
It doesn't
just-
matter.
Okay, all right, the proposed resolution regarding the hiring of spouses of board members. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the submission of the proposal for employment of trustee spouses.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? Aye. This motion passed. So now the third motion, is that right? Did somebody say something? Oh, I thought I heard somebody say something. The third motion is to adopt the proposed ISB resolution in regards to funding for CTE hiring. Is there a motion?
Hereby move that the board approve the submission for the proposed resolution for CTE personnel funding latitude.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion passed. That concludes this meeting, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? I hereby declare this meeting adjourned.